All right, looks like we're live. And I am here, as I always am, with the Robin and Nightwing to my Batman, artistic layman and
I got dibs on being Nightwing.
But I guess it's just the same.
What version of Robin are you, Luke?
Well, I can't be. But then I'm the one that gets killed and comes back as the Red Hood.
No, you're Tim Drake, which is really the best Robin. Before we get into any of the topics, I just want to say publicly, because I haven't had a chance to say it to you both publicly. I really, really appreciate how you guys stepped up to the plate last week. That was a great show. You guys running it turned out just fine, because I was in no shape to run it, and I'm very blessed to have both of you on this show. Period. So I greatly appreciate that.
Thanks, buddy.
It was a lot of fun.
It was. Leave more often. It's better when you're not here, actually.
Yeah. That's, well, I guess, GA, what should we talk about? What has happened?
Oh, I don't know.
It's a slow
I
news
don't
week,
know.
really. Oh, Jesus. I mean, how should I even start this topic? Should I just dig up one of the 2013 tweets of Trump talking about what a terrible idea war with Syria is? Something like that. For those of you that have not been paying attention to the news, there was a chemical weapons attack that hit civilians in Syria, quote unquote, done by Assad. I don't buy that for a minute. And so Trump lobbed a bunch of missiles Syria's way. Despite the fact that one of the main things he ran on was not getting involved in that quagmire. Didn't we learn 10 years ago, jumping into the Middle East to, depose a secular strongman dictator would turn out terribly? I would think we would have learned that, but as I realized this past day or so, a lot of people did not learn that lesson. A lot of people I expected to have learned that lesson. A lot of people I'm disappointed in, if I'm being quite honest. So I don't even know what to say. I mean, look, Thursday night I was especially dark about it, and I'm not quite that dark about it now. I don't think it's that bad. Some people have argued that Trump is playing the neocons a bit here. That nobody was killed in this missile strike. There's evidence that Russia and Syria had warning. Maybe this is just for show to get everyone off his dick. It was chemical weapons. He had to do something. It diffuses the he's a Russian puppet thing. Maybe he did the bare minimum he thought he had to here, trying to have cooler heads prevail. I don't know if that's true. That is what I would like to be true. And they could be my own wishful thinking. That's what I would like this to all be. We shouldn't. We have no business getting involved in Syria. First of all, there's a nuclear power that backs them. Second of all, Assad is not that bad of a guy. No, he's not a goddamn Boy Scout. But, you can't be running a nation over there if you are. This is a guy who protects the religious liberties of minorities. This is the guy who celebrates Christmas with the Christians in his country. And the rebels that he's holding down are fucking ISIS. All right, if not literally aligned with ISIS, they're of that brand of psychotic, death-worshipping maniac. All right. I don't believe he used chemical weapons. I don't believe this was anything other than a false flag. It doesn't make any sense for him to do something that all but forces the rest of the world to attack him, especially when he's mostly winning. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I don't care if he did. But I don't think he did. It doesn't make any sense. You know, it is a terrible idea for us to get involved in Syria at all. And frankly, if we were to get involved with Syria, we should be fighting on Assad's side. If we get involved in Syria to defend these rebels, we're the bad guy. Plain and simple. And we found out, and I knew it at the time, and I was just some 19-year-old punk, and I knew it at the time, 2003. You know, I was 19, 20-year-old punk. I knew it at the time that getting involved in the Middle East in the way we were doing, toppling Saddam, was going to destabilize the region, and it was going to embolden the worst manner of Muslim over there. And that's exactly what it did. Now, some of these neocons will be like, whoa, it was fine till we left. First of all, no, it wasn't. Second of all, we had to leave at some point. All right. The government we put up there did not renew the status of forces. What the hell do you call that thing? I'm blanking on the name, but the fucking agreement that says we can be there. So in other words, to stay, we would have had to topple the government we set up. We couldn't stay there forever. That wasn't a fucking option. First of all, need I remind you, we're all goddamn broke. All right. But second of all, it just wasn't an option. All right. We were stretching things way too thin. Eventually, we had to leave. We didn't set up anything else in Saddam's place because the cold hard fact is the only thing we could have set up was another Saddam. That was the best we could have hoped for. We removed the best thing the Middle East had for the most insane and illogical of reasons. And I thought that people had learned their lesson about this. And I was talking to my dad about it today. And I love my dad. I love him to death. Great guy, respect the hell out of him. Usually a very bright guy. But damned if he isn't into that baby boomer trap. Oh, shoot. I don't like little weasel dictators who think they can push us around. What the fuck are you talking about? Because they said that on the Fox News. America, fuck yeah. They can't, the boomers in general, they can't help but fall into that trap. They can't help it. Never mind that we just made this mistake a decade ago. And boomers will even admit it was a mistake, at least a lot of them. And they still can't see they're doing the same fucking thing now. You're toppling a strongman, secular dictator who actually runs a pretty decent country over there, where the rights of religious minorities even are protected. And you're emboldening the worst manner of Muslim in the process over made up, trumped up horseshit charges.
Pardon the pun.
That you should, yeah, no pun intended, that you should easily be able to see through. This is everything we did wrong with Iraq. And I didn't spend 2 fucking years of my life putting my name and my energy behind a candidate so that he could just repeat W's mistakes. Because I hated W. I hated W so much, I was kind of rooting for Obama in 2008. I couldn't vote for him because I knew, but I wanted the Republicans to be humiliated. I was hoping maybe they would learn a lesson.
Which they didn't.
Which they didn't. 4 years later, they ran a nobody who managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And then 4 years after that, I thought we had a candidate who knew better. Right? And I mean, I don't necessarily regret voting for him because, you know, there was no other choice. I mean, you know, we'd have war with Syria under Hillary Clinton. We'd just be a good month and a half into it right now. I don't think she'd have waited a week.
For me, what's really annoying about all this is I liked everything else Trump has been doing so far, and then this happens.
Yeah, I don't like. I thought there were ways Trump might fuck up, and I thought the biggest way he might fuck up is he just might not push hard enough. It might not get anything done. I could not have imagined that he'd go and repeat W's mistake like this, because there was every indicator he knew better. I don't understand what happened here. I am at a fucking loss.
Perhaps I can shed some light on it. Would you like me to go into my tinfoil hattery?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so this was not an attack on Syria. This was an attack on you. Yes, you, whoever is listening to this, because if you are listening to this, you are part of the new right. You are part of the people who got Trump elected. What this was, and make no mistake about it, this was a false flag, and I will maintain that until my dying breath. Because why on earth would a democratically elected leader of a country in civil war, who again protects the religious freedom of his citizens, who was celebrated when he retook Aleppo because the Christians were not being persecuted and they lit candles and had the first mass in almost a year, why would this man, after the rebels are finally starting to get beaten down, suddenly wake up one morning and decide, you know what? I think I'm going to throw some nerve gas on some babies. Nerve gas that he had decommissioned and disposed of, which was verified years ago by the UN. Nerve gas that just happens to conjure up memories of your history class and how gas was used in a certain other historical conflict. Okay? With a lot of emotional baggage attached to it. Make no mistake, this was a false flag attack, and this was not meant to start a war with Syria. It was that was a hopeful side effect, maybe. The main point here was for the globalists and the George Soros types and all of those people to break you. They wanted to break you, okay? They wanted you to see the man who you elected on a platform of not going to war being forced by international policy towards chemical weapons, forced to act before he had all the information. Unlike you and me, Trump was acting under a time limit here. He did not have the time to watch a bunch of YouTube videos about debunking that this was a real thing, or talking about this or that possibility. He had to make a choice, and the people around him have been the neocons who are muscling their way in and trying to push Steve Bannon out, almost successfully. And the globalists wanted you to look at him doing this and for you to think, oh, well, he's not really in control anymore, because clearly he wouldn't have done this willingly. So now they have control of him too. So we've lost. That was our last hope, and that we really can't beat them. No, we can. Okay, we can, and we will. Do you know what you've done so far? To fight the globalists, if you're the typical sort of alt-right person, you've gone to a voting booth and you've checked a box. You really think it was going to be that easy? I mean, did you really think that was the only thing it was going to take to overturn the world order? I can guarantee you it's going to get harder than this. And it almost worked. If you listen to Bechtloff's live stream on Thursday when this news came out, it almost worked, didn't it? I was in the darkest place I've been in 5 or 6 years. But I'm not going to let them win. And you shouldn't either.
Amen.
Well,
though we stand against the gates of hell, we are not alone, and we never will be. Even if we are the last individual left alive standing against these people, we have God on our side. You want to call him Jesus, you want to call him Yahweh, you want to call him Xenu or Odin or fucking whatever. We are on the side of truth. And that is not going to change.
Oh, I have no doubt that we're going to eventually win. I would generally prefer it to There needs to be payment in blood
Yes.
for what the globalists have done. I would much prefer that payment be paid orderly and through trials and executions. That's my hopefulness. And I will say that has been my bit of a white pill here is Trump's response was very, very measured. He lobbed a few fucking missiles in the direction of basically an empty airfield where no one was killed.
Mm-hmm.
He did kind of the bare minimum he had to here. And positively speaking, assuming he has not bought into neocon madness, as we all fear that he may have, this could serve the purpose of again doing the, I saw chemical weapons, I had to do something, I did something, and it does diffuse the Russian puppet nonsense to the point where maybe he can really begin to sit down and work out peace with Putin without choruses of autistic screeching in the background.
It would be a lot better first if he could sit down and talk out some peace with Assad.
Well,
like we want access to the Middle East from the Mediterranean or whatever. Okay, so why does that have to involve blood? It's because the godless heathens trying to run the world just enjoy it. That's why. But I would like
honestly,
to say
there's no reason we can't have Assad on our side. As I said, if we are to be involved in Syria, and that's an if I'm not particularly on board with, I would be fighting on Assad's side. He is attempting to squash down these quote unquote rebels. These represent some of the worst fucking evil this world has ever seen. Absolute cartoonish fucking evil from ISIS. Right? These are motherfuckers who want, they go in and they burn down the pyramids and shit like that. All right. I don't know of any other army that does that kind of horseshit. Where they're that fucking psychotic, they want to destroy history.
I can think of one. It's from history. It's called the Soviet Union.
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone wants to shit on the Nazis, but they made sure the art didn't get burned down.
Yeah.
They at least had some goddamn civilization about them. The ISIS does not.
Unless that George Clooney movie is true.
Actually, yeah, I was going to bring that up. They did start burning the art when they were losing, just out of desperation. Like, fuck you! If we can't have it, nobody can.
Well, at the very least, it wasn't the first thing they did when they came in.
Well, sure, right.
It wasn't the goal.
That wasn't the express objective. No.
I mean, and I've actually heard from some of my more autistic, spiritually autistic fellow Christians, like, why is it people get mad at ISIS when they, knock down monuments and ancient things, and they don't get mad about the killing? And I'm like, well, I'm not happy about the killing, but they're waging a war. I expect them to do that. You know what I mean? There is something even more heinous about the knocking down the monuments and trying to knock down the pyramids. That does sort of like, well, what the fuck's the point of that, buddy?
Yeah.
I mean, you're waging a war. I expect you to kill people. Whether that war is just or not, that's kind of what a war is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, look, it's not. I'm hardly ready to burn my MAGA hat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
Oh no.
But I'm not exactly wearing it much lately. I'm disappointed in this. Now, there's also the fact that, okay, you could say, well, Trump did what he had to do here. Fine. That's all well and good. He has got way too many fucking neocons whispering in his ear. If he was surrounded by Steve Bannons and he did this, I would have confidence he knows what he's doing. Because, again, it's a very measured, very minor step. I would have confidence, okay, he's playing a game here. And maybe he is. I would hope he is. But no, he's got his fucking dumb, stupid gash daughter and her fucking merchant husband, and we all know where his fucking loyalties lie, and it ain't with this nation. You know, and look, Ivanka's she's a reasonably sharp girl. She's a decent businesswoman. She's raised a beautiful family. Obviously, she's a slamming hottie. And she has a certain feminine grace about her. There's a lot to respect about that woman, but she obviously doesn't know dick about public policy. And I really don't like the idea that every time the media waves a fucking dead baby, you know, around trying to manipulate her, that she's going to come into daddy's office crying. All right.
Isn't she pro-abortion? I wouldn't think dead babies would bother her.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Was that too brutal?
Woo
So is the murder of unborn children.
Woo ladding intensifies.
We're going full Deus Vult, people. Or at least I am.
But yeah, like Ivanka, you need to shut up and be looking fine. All right, go make some more pretty babies, you know, and have your fucking Instagram account and be a little goddamn figurehead. All right, that's all the hell you're supposed to do. And I'm sorry, but like, this isn't as bad as some of us on the alt-right are saying.
I saw an article today talking about this is the end of Trumpism and blah blah blah. But you know what this was? This was the end of the honeymoon.
Yes,
we have got to stop thinking of in the new right. I'm going to start calling it the new right because that's what we are. We're not an alternative anymore. We are the new right. Here in the new right, we've had this tendency to think of Trump as our buddy, right? He's our guy in the ring, duking it out for us. But this was a stark reminder that he does not represent us 100%. He is just a guy. And he is subject to the whims of everyone else in his government. He is not an all-powerful leader. He does not have absolute authority, and he is not going to do things perfectly every time. This four-dimensional chess meme has got to die, okay? Not everything is part of a super amazing plan to bring back the Fourth Reich or something.
It also shows you that, you know, 2018 is every bit as important as 2016. There needs to be a great deal of other new right aligned politicians in Congress and in the House and in the Senate.
Be careful who you make a hero, because heroes can be killed. Up to you, right? If you haven't listened to the rock opera by the Proto Men, is an adaptation of some of the stuff from Mega Man. That is what it's all about. Everyone sits around doing nothing, waiting for a hero to save their ass when it's on them. It's your turn, okay? If you're listening to this, you have got to change things in your life if you want the world to change.
I've actually been wondering about that recently, because I noticed that the history of the alt-right, or the history of the new right, I should call it, has been a series of heroes coming and falling. And
yes, because heroes are mortal. And
it's just kind of that this is always happening.
I think that's what when Milo came under fire, I think that was when our enemies decided to change tactics and to use that quirk of human psychology against us. Because if you set someone up as a hero, it's easy to take down one person, right? You can't destroy an entirety of a movement. I mean, God forbid, look at how resilient Islam as an ideology has been, despite the fact that it's a crazy child-murdering death cult. You know? Muhammad died, but Islam did not.
Here's the other thing I found impressive the last few days. I mean, right as this Syria bullshit was starting, and I seen people catalog it. The new right, and that's a good term for it. You know, the Trump supporters who probably hate each other. And then a good example, Paul Joseph Watson and Richard Spencer. These are two of the biggest names that come to mind. But this guy had taken screen caps of dozens of big name Trump supporters, and that's just showing you the spectrum it runs there. You know, from alt-light to alt-white. All of them saying this is a terrible fucking idea. And you know, none of the fucking peaceniks that voted in Obama, very few of them were out there bitching when Obama proved to be, you know, just slightly a more ballless version of G.W. Bush's policies.
Yeah, but he was black though, so you know it doesn't matter.
You know, it just shows you this is not the cult of personality. You know, oddly enough, it was the people that joke about Trump being the God Emperor who called him out on this on what they believe was a bad decision the most. It was guys like that Bill Mitchell, fucking baby boomer, failed Rush Limbaugh, who's kept sucking his dick. It was Tommy Lauren, who we all know is just a neocon cunt. All right, sucking his dick. Now I know I kind of defended her the other week, but that was more just me pointing out that Glenn Beck fired her for the wrong reason. You know, and more just me pointing out Glenn Beck should have never hired her in the first goddamn place. All right. You know, there is a laundry list of reasons to fire Tommy Lauren. The fact that she had a lukewarm sort of pro-choice stance, that's like the bottom of the fucking list, all right? That doesn't even crack the top 100 on reasons why Tommy Lauren should have been shown the door. But no, it was those idiots who were out there like, you know, and partly because they're pro-war idiots themselves. And it was all the pro-war people on Trump's side that are still on Trump's side on this. I'm noticing they're falling into two camps. I'm going to say 98% of the time. Baby boomers and women. So, you know, make of that statement what you will. Yeah, there needs to be more. There needs to be better senators and better congressmen elected in 2018. In fact, I would argue we should be beginning to look at 2018 already. Okay.
Sure, it's just next year.
Yeah. You know, we should. You know, Cernovich has joked, or I shouldn't even say joke, but has flirted with the idea of running for office. I have issues with Cernovich, but I absolutely support that. Cernovich being in Congress would be fantastic for any number of reasons. Number one, I think he's mostly gonna you know, mostly has good ideas. Number two, it much like Trump's election would help further change the rules on who can and cannot get in. And it's not all that difficult to get into Congress, relatively speaking. Surprisingly so. You know, Congress has, you know, the House, I should say. I keep saying Congress because they're congressmen, but Congress actually means both bodies. But the House, I should say. It's always had all sorts of quirky oddballs in it compared to, say, the Senate. But, you know, every 2 years, folks, a third of the Senate and all of the House is up. And man, John McCain needs to be fucking homeless come 2018. I mean, jobless at least. I mean, you know, penniless and alone in the gutter would be preferable, but at the very least out of a job. So yeah, Razor Fist, get on that shit. You know, you live out there.
Yes.
Every other day needs to be an anti-McCain video from your channel.
Wow, Razor Fist is a senator. I could just see it with the shades and his long hair.
Oh fuck
God,
yeah!
yes.
Yeah, his nice leather jacket.
Emperor Fist.
I know McCain's not up for re-election in this 2 years, but you know, I don't know. Is there a recall method? I mean,
Razorfish should run for Congress, and he should wear a normal suit like they do, but keep the aviators and the driving gloves.
Fucking like skull tie or something.
Yeah.
No, pentagram tie, of course.
A modern version of Dr. Wiley. But yeah, I mean, look, the Syria thing might not be that bad. There's any number of positive things that could come from this minor step that Trump was half forced to do. But man, how the hell? I mean, I get why the liberals want it because they're Satan worshipers. They just want everything and anything that's bad. I get why the just straight neocons want it. But I mean, how could you be a Trump supporter and be for this? What were you supporting him for? Why not just vote Jeb? I mean, yeah, well, all I can say is it's a good thing Hillary Clinton didn't get elected. Otherwise, we'd still have Obamacare and be going to war with Syria. All right,
Let's just pray that the stuff with Syria stops here, and this is the last we have to hear of it.
Yes, and I can't emphasize it enough.
That would be the best possible outcome here.
Let's pray this de-escalates. Let's pray Trump is not he's not pursuing neocon madness. That this is not Iraq 2.0 here.
Oh, well, I'm actually on the Washington Post, and one of their subtitles is "Democracy Dies in Darkness" as the subpost for the Washington Post.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm on their page right now, and one of our first articles that Drudge is reporting to is, despite U.S. missile barrage, Syria continues airstrikes against rebels.
Good.
Good. These rebels are monsters. And also, Pastor Tom had a video the next day where he talked about, I understand the need to go up.
Oh, hey, I lost my internet connection for a second there.
Oh,
are you still here?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
So Pastor Tom had a video the next day where he talked about okay, well, you do need to go after chemical weapons. And I do realize Trump had a certain amount of international law requiring him to. And, like I said, he might have just taken the minimum required step to get everyone off his dick. Quite possibly this will diffuse a lot of nonsense he had to deal with and maybe allow him to find more constructive solutions. That's the best case scenario here. But anyways, there's this fucking mystique about chemical weapons that is just irrational as all hell. I could understand the massive fucking reactions necessary to, say, a biological weapon, any kind of germ warfare. That's obviously a goddamn sci-fi horror apocalypse movie waiting to happen. But chemical weapons, I mean, that's too broad of a fucking umbrella.
Yeah, everything is made out of chemicals.
Yeah, to get that hyped up about. I mean, the problem with chemical weapons, and this sounds like kind of hippie shit to be concerned about, but the problem with chemical weapons is kind of the environmental damage they can cause, in that these can be poisoning lots of people well after the battle is done. That's much less of an issue, though, when you're dealing with gas. Gas dissipates pretty well, and that's the end of it. When you're dealing with more liquid-based shit that can get into the soil and stuff like that, it's a little different. With most types of gas, it's not that big a damn deal. It's just something we get emotional about because of, shall we say, certain cultural baggage going on.
Cultural baggage.
But, spraying a fucking toxic gas in someone's face is no more morally upright or not than putting a bullet in their head, all right? You're either justified in the killing of that person or you're not. But there's not a whole hell of a lot of difference there, folks. So while I understand from an international law aspect why chemical weapons are so bad, lead's a chemical, all right? Everything's a fucking chemical. Let's not get too upset about this, all right? Like I said, to reiterate, I don't believe he gassed these people. I'm not all that concerned if he did, but I don't think he did. It makes no sense for him to do it. And Assad is many things. He's not stupid.
Yeah, and never mind all that. It's completely out of character from the way he has behaved as a leader up to this point. Not
Yes.
that you would know that if you watched the news, but you know, everyone who rules a country in the Middle East is a dictator unless they, you know, hate Christianity and give us oil money or something. Like, as long as they're not interested in attacking a certain country, but whatever. I mean, you know, you can cry anti-Semitism all day long, but it's the facts are the facts, and it's like all right there. Okay, it's not because I hate a certain group of people or whatever, but you know, it's a lot more convenient to have another country fight for you. Never mind what your ideology is. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, like I said, hopefully Trump has not lost his goddamn mind here, and constructive things can come from this. Like I said, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to burn my MAGA hat, but I'm not happy. And,
so with that said, should I lighten the mood with some
and lighter fluid is on standby too, by the way.
I'm not thirsty, thanks.
All right. I haven't prepared a lot of topics this week. And to be honest, I've kind of blown my topic. I streamed a lot this week, folks. So
you did?
I had a tremendous amount of free time on my hands. I don't know if you heard, but I've recently been relieved of my employment. Last week, and I mentioned this in last stream, and that's why I wasn't doing it. In the course of 3 days, someone hit my car, and then Thursday morning, due to failing health, I knew I was going to have to put my dog down, and I made the vet appointment for the next morning. Went into work. As soon as I got into work, was laid off. I had to come back home, and the next day I had to let my dog down, or put my dog down. So that was a hell of a 3 days right there. As I said, Undertow and Artistic Layman here, they both stepped up to the plate and ran the show flawlessly for me. I appreciate the hell out of that. I didn't even ask for a donation Saturday, and a lot of you were very, very generous with me, and I was very touched by that. But obviously, I had a lot more free time this week. So I streamed, I think it was Sunday, Monday, I think like Wednesday. There were 2 on Thursday. And I did one on Ryan Carlson's channel, I think it was. He was a former reaction writer that asked me to be on Tuesday. I think if you stroll through like my Twitter feed or something, you'll find the link to it. So yeah, a good back catalog of stuff to listen to this week if you haven't caught it. But anyways, I don't have a lot of topics this week. So we will be taking callers. And as I had said in a previous video, the calling structure is going to be a lot different this week. I'm going to bring in, you're going to give your topic, a little bit of thought on it, whatever, real quick, and then that's going to be it. You know, you're dismissed, and Undertow, Luke, and I are going to bounce off that. I gotta bring a little bit more order to my caller structure here. The week before things got out of hand, and that was on me. It's not on any of you. This is my show, you know, and I often want to be too lax of a hand on it. So we're gonna be a little more structured on callers.
So before we bring callers, should I lighten the mood by bringing in some dress-up games?
Yes. We're gonna do a little let's play on the channel here right now. We're gonna do a little let's play. You know, y'all been dying for me to do a let's play, so let's do a let's play here.
Well, technically, yeah. Oh, let's see.
I discovered this site because of a JonTron video on Disney bootleg games. The site is called Dress Up Who, and I don't know how else to describe it, but like the female autism magnets. Like, Girls can have autism too. Yay for equality.
And while we were, shall I look up one I just found?
By all means, let's see what this wonderful site has to offer us.
Where are you?
Here we have a lot of bootleg Frozen games. Believe it or not, these wonderful games are not licensed by Disney.
And here's the new one I found: Barbie and Elsa pregnant sauna.
Oh, here we go. We know we're in for something good.
Oh, come on, load! Don't freeze now.
Oh no. Yeah, the site maybe isn't coded the best.
Oh, here we go. I had to get advertisements.
Oh, okay. Well, they got to make their money somehow for this brilliance. this amazing site. Okay, so what is the goal of this fine game?
Let's see. Barbie and Elsa Project Song. Let's play and find out. And as you can see, we have our base. It seems to want me to do something with this.
What do we?
Removing her bracelets and leglets.
With pliers?
Apparently so.
I
have to move this up and down to get it washed down for the sauna. Okay. And get her dried off, of course.
Alrighty. This is fucking riveting.
Then, what's this? Guess
we're gonna shave her armpits.
Yeah. Not one, but two.
Well, yeah. She's. Oh, why are they pregnant? What is that adding to the game?
So, let me know when you guys are ready for my take on this, because I happen to be an expert on this topic. And I'm not joking.
Oh, feel free to add commentary while I play.
So here's the deal. This crap first came to my attention when the people on 4chan's video games board began discussing something that one of them had discovered called girlgames.com. So here's the deal. It was one of these things like this. And what shocked everybody was not just the fact that it was all this weird medical stuff like spinal surgery Barbie, or, you know, Elsa baby tooth removal, or weird stuff with just princesses.
The Frozen girl, like, is that?
Yeah.
Is that like Sonic for girls or something? What is with Frozen?
Here's the deal. There are like 20,000 of these things on every single one of these sites that has them. And it is so baffling to the point where people were speculating that this might be some kind of AI that was designed to create these things based on popular characters, because some of the Photoshop jobs were really done poorly and everything, and was really weird, and a lot of the sound effects are reused. It's the same templates over and over again.
Skynet became self-aware, but it has autism.
That's basically what people were positing, because like it was just like so weird. But here's the real deal, as far as I can tell. Most of this crap comes out of India. I want you guys to look up a YouTube channel sometime called Hey Kids. It's just Hey Kids. And it is really, really surreal and terrifying. Nightmind actually did a video about it, because that was another thing that people were positing. Like, is this part of a giant Skynet program that's making these things? But here's the real deal. Indians churn these games out like 5 a day. Okay?
But why?
Because they get click-through traffic for it.
Is this a channel or
Girl Games? Excuse me, not Girl. Hey Kids is a YouTube channel, and it is the same nursery rhyme, like a weird Indian nursery rhymes, over and over and over again, with pop culture things just pasted on over it. And like some of them don't even make sense to be for like little kids. Like there's one that's got Gurren Lagann characters. Like what? It's like this guy at this, you know, Indian call center or whatever, where they're being forced to churn these out, just snuck that past his boss because like, oh, it looks like a cartoon, sure. You know,
Wait, am I looking at the right one?
you are indeed, and that is what I was going to bring up next. How horrifying that is, and that is every freaking video. And I don't. Yeah,
What the heck is this?
yeah, it's really, really freaking surreal. But basically, from this, what we've gathered is that it's Indian companies who are hiring people to just churn this weird crap out because kids will click on anything, and then exploiting Google search algorithms to make it appear over and over and over again. And because they have 20,000 different ones based on the same stuff, it'll be, you know, it'll be clicked on a lot by little girls. And the way the pregnancy thing and the caretaking and the surgery and the nurse type stuff where you like clean out ears and shave things or whatever, that's actually something here, putting on my psychology hat right here. This is actually something that is very appealing and rewarding to women and young females, kind of instinctively, because it's grooming, it's cleaning, it's caretaking, it's, you know, stuff that is nurturing and everything. And all of these horrifying images of these cutesy characters with broken bones and, you know, horrible ingrown toenails and stuff, and it's disgusting to us, and we're just like, ugh. But when the female like psyche sees that and says, "Oh, I have to fix that." Like my mother has a huge fixation on like cleaning out ears and clipping nails and stuff because it's incredibly soothing and satisfying for someone with, you know, like just caretaker instincts. And what they're doing is they're exploiting little girls' sort of basic instincts and stuff. Like, you know, a lot of little girls want to be doctors or nurses when they grow up, and you know, they play doctor and everything because they like to feel like they're taking care of someone or something. Because that's what, you know, they're built to do. Oh, here's a great example. They take just random popular things and just staple it onto this stuff. Yeah, Peppa Pig injured. Look at that. Look at that.
God, that looks, oh my God.
See what I mean? See what I mean? Like,
there's one on here and it's Elsa's zombie baby, right?
Like, okay, look, Elsa hand doctor. Look at all these needles.
Oh.
Always the needles. It's freaking terrifying. And look at it's the same game that they've made 6 times already, but they've just pasted Elsa's face on there.
So
because it's really easy to take a random popular Disney princess and put their face on it, and then girls will click on it.
So the Elsa zombie baby one, I checked that out last night, and like an evil witch puts a curse on Elsa's baby to turn it into a zombie. And you're like, at first you're like stitching it back up and all, and then you have to pick the right medicine to turn it back to a baby. And if you don't, it's just sitting there saying, like, still zombified, saying like, you look hungry or you look yummy, mommy.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is disturbing.
There's a version of that exact game made for The Little Mermaid where she accidentally takes a potion that Ursula the Witch left lying around that turned her into a zombie. And then you have to fix her.
Like, I'm a grown-ass man and I'm a little disturbed by this. I can't.
Exactly. Exactly. Because number one, you have the cultural barrier. Number two, you have the mass-produced nature of it and the low quality to really just make it just it is the uncanny valley to the second power. It is really weird stuff.
Burrowing into the uncanny valley.
If you want to check out
mining for coal in the uncanny valley.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. They've struck gold in the uncanny valley, actually, by exploiting search engines and little girls in natural instincts. But if you want to see somebody on the Vinesauce channel, a streamer named Rev, R-E-V, Rev Scarecrow, he actually streamed a lot of these, and just to highlight how weird they all are. And I've followed a couple of those streams. That's how I know about the Little Mermaid one, because I would not be caught dead with this in my browser history. So you're a braver man than I, Luke.
Somebody comes in like, Luke, what are you doing? He quickly switches to porn.
Yeah. Well, there's this great Korean webcomic artist who makes these wonderful little panels, like comics about just random things, and one of them that he does that's one of my favorites is
Oh God!
oh Jesus,
The
that
little flower
completely
over it, 'cause
that completely destroyed my train of thought. Oh God. But one of
every
my
day we
favorite
move
comics that he
further
does,
away from the light.
one of my favorite comics that he does is a guy gets shot and he's like oh God, I've got to get to the computer. And he's like, he dies with his hand on the mouse, and the police are investigating, and they say, "Sir, it looks like he was trying to delete his browser history." It's oh God, there might be a clue to who killed him in there. Check what it is. Then the last panel is just them looking at the screen and both blushing.
Oh, the baby's safe now.
Oh
Yeah.
my God! There's a pony one.
Yeah, see what I mean?
Pony one.
See what I mean about just doing things that don't make any sense? So weird. Like they just don't. It's like an alien made it. And like looking at that like cracked porcelain doll face thing. When you listen to that guy talk, by the way, it gets even worse. On Hey Kids.
Ugh. Oh God!
It's just, yeah. Turn the
That
volume
looks
up.
like
Listen
that-
to him.
That
Listen
looks
to
like
him.
that annoying orange show that Nickelodeon
Yes.
had.
Like speaking in cryptic riddles and crap.
Ooh. Oh man!
Right?
Wow! Like
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable.
Yes.
Oh. Somebody in the cat chat. Why is the purple pony knocked up?
Yep. Well, she went to BronyCon one year, and well,
Oh, I need a fucking smoke.
yeah. This is the bold new internet frontier, guys. This is the kind of stuff that I find when I go on what I call my deep web safaris. Because I do that sometimes. Like you have to treat it like you're going on a real safari. You know, you got to get your protective gear and everything, and your hunting rifle and all that.
Luke, I
Just
really do
digital
hope.
equivalents.
I really do hope, though, Luke, you have good fucking anti-spyware shit.
Yeah,
on those.
this is a really good way to get spyware. I mean, obviously not the YouTube channel, but
yeah, the dress up who games.
Yeah. Probably.
Actually, when Rev on Vinesauce streams those games, he actually uses like a throwaway browser or something. And he's got it. He's like running it in a separate instance of Windows on his computer.
I'd almost dig out an old laptop.
Yeah,
What does
I mean that's not a bad idea, but he just,
How
it's
does
just if you
your
wanted to
mother-
stream it, you gotta
What is
How
this?
does how does your mother what?
Beat you.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Look, here, you read this?
Listen, Hey Kids did one video where it was motion captured Hitler because he found out that the people on 4chan were like looking into the channel and being like, "Is this some kind of rogue AI?" And he tried to play it up.
Is it some sort of rogue AI?
Yes.
We all thought Skynet would. Skynet's just going to have autism when it goes up.
I mean, this is like something out of a horror movie, honestly.
Skynet's not going to like nuke. It's just going to generate Sonic the Hedgehog pornography.
Oh God, I would prefer the nuke.
It's just going to fill every website with Sonic the Hedgehog for pregnancy games.
I'm not going to say anything, but those exist already.
Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? Why would I think that wouldn't? Oh God. Oh, God.
Yeah, be afraid.
All right.
Luke, take it away.
It's staring into my soul.
I mean, it really is like something out of a David Lynch movie, honestly.
All right.
It's a Jodorowsky's children's program.
All right, we're gonna take callers here soon. So message me if you want in. A couple you already have. So like I said, this is gonna be a little bit more.
Well, after callers, I can do my weekly Warhammer stuff if you want.
Oh, sounds good. Okay, so I'll bring in the first caller. Pardon me. Oh, I took a nap this afternoon. I really shouldn't have. Like I didn't even wake up till 7:30. It wasn't even this afternoon. It was like 6. I just kind of was. I don't know. I was sort of laying in bed reading, and then next thing I know, I'm just sort of out. I'm kind of lucky. I could have it could have been like 9 that I woke up or something. All right. So first caller said, "Give me a moment." Okay. Yeah, I think I want to do like a whole let's play of those sometime because that's fucked up. Like, good God. So shout out to Jontron for introducing me to that madness. He did a episode on Disney bootleg games, and there was this one. Lion King game for the NES. It looked like where if you get a game over screen, Simba like hangs himself.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And then if you get a game over screen when you're playing as a Timon, he digs his own grave while crying. Like nothing else in the thing is all that fucked up, but the Chinese just thought that was appropriate for some reason. By the way, JonTron's show is great, and if you're not subscribed to JonTron, you're wrong. He is the last truly great one of those guys.
Well, he puts actual effort into his show, so he's in the minority. Brutal Moose is also pretty good, though.
I sent a JonTron video to my dad, and he even liked it. And I mean, he barely understands the subject matter being video games, but I sent him the one on all the anti-drug video games. And he thought that was really funny. Like the beginning of it, JonTron's just got like photo. He's got framed photographs of each of the Beatles, except one of them is Alf.
Yeah. Good stuff like that.
He's just staring at the wall. He's like, "Is something off about this?" Yeah, it's probably fine. That fucked up level in Wally Bear and the No Gang, and he's like, "There is apparently an underground demon fortress in our city, and for whatever reason, the subway just goes right through that shit." Oh, all right. What's going on with our callers here?
Not a lot, so I'll go ahead and I'll do my Warhammer lore stuff. It'll be quick this week.
All right, go ahead and break into your Warhammer.
So last week I talked about the orcs, and I mentioned that they were a bioweapon created by the old ones. Now that seems like kind of an insane thing to create as a bioweapon, right? That there's literally no way you're going to be able to control something that vicious and that blunt. But they were fighting against the Necrons, who are the next faction I'm going to be talking about. So the year 40,000 or 39,999 is when Warhammer takes place. But the story of the Necrons and the old ones actually takes place 60 million years into the past, where a bunch of Egyptian-themed alien guys sold their souls to become immortal zombie robot pharaohs and travel the stars, reaping the souls of the unrighteous. This is a thing, and this is serious. And they used to be basically just ripoffs of the Terminator, like up until the point where one of their custom rules was called "We'll be back." Yeah, but now they just call that reanimation protocol, so they can keep getting back up after they're killed. Basically, these creepy star gods appeared and said, "Hey, you know, you really hate those old one guys, right? Because the Necrons had unfortunately grown up on a planet that was around a very, very weird star that gave off a lot of ultraviolet radiation and not very much light. So they actually were very short-lived, and their entire lives were plagued by horrible diseases and pain and all that kind of stuff. And they really envied the old ones because they could basically live forever. And when they first met, they said, "Hey, you guys are masters of biotechnology. Why don't you help us out and you know, extend our lifespan?" Well, the old ones have a belief that all life is sacred and naturally occurring life should not be tampered with. So they said no. And the Necrons got really mad, which is why after a long drawn-out war, they eventually sold their souls to these giant star god monsters, which are not actually part of the warp. In fact, they are almost anathema to the warp. So it's kind of like there are these super powerful beings in the material universe too. They used to just be a faceless horde of killing machines, but they retconned the lore a little bit back, and this is one of the few good things that Matt Ward did, by the way. He retconned it so that all of the old dynasties were still around after they got reanimated into these cold, semi-emotionless robots. And basically, they are 60 million years later, they're resurrecting from their tomb worlds and coming to try and retake their old empire and find a cure to turn themselves back into flesh and blood because they want to be able to feel again. And they're the most technologically advanced race in the 40K setting, which is ironic because they're from 60 million years in the past. But there you go. And they fire Gauss weapons, which are like magnetically accelerated lightning that peels off the skin and stuff, just the molecules of their victim, one layer at a time. So molecule by molecule, you are flayed when you get hit by one of these beams. And it's pretty spoopy, scary skeletons. But yeah, that's just my quick bit on the Necrons because I see one of our callers is here. So
yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, just know that in the 40K setting there are zombie skeleton pharaoh robots.
Yeah, I know. Well, thanks to you, I know some of the Warhammer stuff. I know the Necrons. Which, before we get started, speaking of Warhammer, Undertow, I blame you for this. Here are my free.
Hang on, I got an alt tab here real quick.
Well, yeah, I'm holding them to the camera.
Yes. Space Marines.
Well,
I'm gonna have to say, thin your paints.
Yeah, no, these. I didn't actually buy these. I was like looking into it, and the guy at the store gave me these for free. So these are kind of my paint.
That's why they're kind of. Yeah. Those look better. Those look better.
Yeah, the first hit's free. So these are kind of my paint dummies.
All right, caller. So what's on your mind, and then we'll bounce off that.
Very nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
And this is the one I actually bought. I'm going to try to get the
cool.
Sigmars, since I'm a noob and Sigmars for noobs. Anyway, sorry about that. I was like busy with family. So the topic I want to discuss, maybe going on a little lighter topic. It's something I just thought about discussing and seeing back and forth, just real quick. But the thing I've noticed with especially with geek culture, and this thing I've just noticed a lot with video games, comics, and kind of sci-fi stuff, it just seems like when it comes to geek culture, they make all this money and you can very tell what their fans are. But it seems that whenever they have the chance, it seems that geek culture itself actually hates its audience. Because have you ever noticed whenever something comes up, they always try to basically throw their pre-existing audience under the bus? I just wanted to see to discuss that, see if there was anything to that or not, because it seems every time you build up something geeks build up comics, build up video games, but then when the shiny little group comes along, they immediately try to throw the current group under the bus, with social justice.
Yeah.
Think there's anything to that?
All right. Yeah, that's a really good topic. So, all right, as par with the new rules, I'm tossing you out, and we're going to discuss that.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
But thanks for calling. Appreciate it.
Sorry about the lateness, but
no,
I understand.
it's fine. Like I said, I'm trying these new rules here.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
I got you.
Thank you.
All right. So this is actually a good topic because
It's a very good topic.
I've seen this a lot. There is Razorfist has pointed this out, and I've said this before too. And you see this with video games. You saw this a lot with comics, where they're sort of embarrassed about it. So one of the best things of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, and it's one of the reasons that, in my opinion, they're on a level higher than most all other comic book movies, is that it's the first time I felt like these movies aren't ashamed of the source material, at least a little bit.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
And for whatever their faults are, that is the thing about the Marvel. That is why even when they're not that bad or when they're not that good, a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie usually still connects with me, because I really feel like I'm seeing good old-fashioned comic book stories on the screen. Whereas even with ones I like, the Fox X-Men movies, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, the Nolan Batman movies, those are all movies I more or less liked. It was very apparent that, this was very far removed from the Batman or the Spider-Man or the X-Men I know. And that it was almost kind of ashamed of its sources.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this a little bit with video games. Video games have to grow up and this sort of stuff. Comics are like that. Comic creators constantly trying to not be, be comic book creators. We're moving in a more cinematic way or whatever. You see this a lot, and you do see that, and you certainly want to expand your audience when you can. Don't get me wrong. But not at the
expense of having a high turnover rate.
Yeah, and I saw this early on, years ago, 2010, maybe a little bit before, maybe even going back a decade ago, really, where I saw the beginnings of a big push on Marvel's part to get in more female readers. And I'm just like, guys, and I'm on message boards arguing this with guys and they of course throw out the bullshit. Oh, you don't like girls in your clubhouse and cooties and all that other bullshit, which I didn't even realize what I was dealing with at the time. And that's why this stuff caught me so off guard back then. I didn't know what third wave feminism was back then. Those halcyon days of yore. But
you didn't know feminism had waves.
Yeah, I did. I thought feminism was about, getting the right to vote, and we were done with it. But like there's certain characters being pushed that nobody gave a damn about. Certain writers being pushed that just were no fucking good. And I remember arguing somewhere on there, and I was like, guys, look, generally speaking, women aren't going to want to fucking read superhero stories. Yeah. This is a genre that appeals mostly to males. It speaks to us. In the same way, we're not going to want to go read romance stories, all right? Generally speaking, it doesn't mean you're never going to
Monster Girls.
It doesn't mean you're never going to want to read them. It doesn't mean there's never going to be crossover. But this is generally speaking, something that appeals to boys and men, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I was even arguing, I was like, and frankly, comics and video games are the last things we have. Really, where the boys aren't treated as fucking imbeciles and the girls know everything's right. Because even back then, I was noticing that in every damn TV show, But, everyone's like, oh, we got to have more female readers. I'm like, why? Why do we have to have that? Well, we got to get sales numbers up. I'm like, we got to get sales numbers up by fucking, making better comic books. And at the time, I was arguing what Marvel and DC need to do more of is animated TV shows, video games, and movies, because that's what brings people into comics. Virtually everyone who is a comic book fan will tell you they got into it because of a cartoon show or a movie. Even a good friend of mine, got into comic books because he watched the Ghost Rider movie when it first came out. Thought, that's pretty cool. I'm going to go talk to my comic book friend, see if he can point me to some Ghost Rider stuff. And from there, he's a huge Marvel fan. But there's definitely this thing where it's like geek culture sort of being ashamed of itself. And there's maybe a little bit less of it now in this sort of post Big Bang Theory world where it's sort of cool.
I'm such a nerd.
Yeah, and and there's certainly downsides to that. But yeah, there was always this, and I was guilty of it too. I always felt like when pop culture acknowledged, back before pop culture acknowledged superheroes that much, I always felt kind of nice when it did. You know what I mean? Like it was being validated. And I shouldn't have felt that way because most of the adaptations sucked. But I would almost always see a comic book movie or at least give a superhero show a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Bechtloff, I would posit that those two things you mentioned are actually the same thing. Geek media is the people who write it are acting all ashamed of it because they're the people who got into it to be cool.
That's probably something. But I do think there was something to it even back before then, because
before then it was mostly like executives not getting it and holding the creatives back. Now that the people are getting into it because it's so cool to be a nerd. Now it's the creators are ashamed of it. That's what's changed.
I'm reminded of that. Yeah, I'm reminded of that one segment that someone shared about like music in the 60s, and they're pointing out the fact that people like to idolize the 60s, and it wasn't really great, but there was a great genre of music that came out there, and the people in charge were not the hip young guys. They were just the cigar chomping. They were just the cigar chomping old white guys that said, sounds good. I don't know. Let's put it out there. See if people want to buy it.
Yeah, people seem to like it, and I like money.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the hip young guys got in and say, "Oh, I'm going to set the trends. I'm going to say what's cool, and you're all going to like it."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of that, where you need it to be validated and stuff like that, and yeah, I think there's a lot of that with geek culture, and
not to mention that a lot of those people who become writers on comic books who don't like them, and they want to impress their old English professors. Like, oh, I'm gonna write literary comic books. It's gonna have deep meanings. Yeah. I'm gonna make a change.
Well, I mean, in comic books, there was, it's funny. You can like something and not like the influence it had. And with that, I'm gonna say that I generally like Watchmen.
I knew you were going there because I was gonna say exactly that. I
think it's a good read, and in fact, I think the movie is a fantastic adaptation of it.
Oh yeah,
that is the best possible Watchmen movie that can exist in this or any other universe. And in fact, the ending to the movie is better because it makes more sense than the stupid octopus monster thing. In the because I'm sorry, like Alan Moore is a bit of a hack. Well, he's not bad. I'm not Razor Fist. I don't hate the guy. I think he's written some brilliant stuff. But Alan Moore is one of the earliest examples of a guy who was ashamed to be a comic book writer.
That's actually, I'm going to argue that that's actually wrong because I've heard interviews and stuff where Alan Moore basically made Watchmen like to prove a point that dark and gritty does not work for comics. Like it was like, look how miserable and sad this story is. And then all these pseudo-intellectuals saw it and were like, oh, it's so deep.
He was trying to make a point that too much realism doesn't work in comics because you take too much realism. The problem is too much realism doesn't work in fiction in general. Okay,
exactly.
Never mind the scientific reasons why a superhero wouldn't work or whatever. If there were superheroes, and let's say they were the Avengers, okay, they would spend the majority of their time sitting on their fucking asses waiting for shit to go wrong. And then it would be like rescuing people from natural disasters or something. Just like how a cop spends most of his time filing paperwork. It's not, or just on random patrols. You know, it's not Law and Order. It's not fucking, Dirty Harry. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of fiction takes the most extreme thing that could happen to a cop and makes it as though it was his day to day. Likewise, imagine how if Spider-Man has to fucking save people all the time, that means the crime rate in New York is through the fucking roof. There needs to be martial law. All right. Like, there's muggers on every block. All right.
Well, that was New York in the time that it was being written originally.
Well, yeah. But that's the thing. Too much realism in any manner of fiction by nature would have to make it boring. And what you end up with to get around that is this sort of pseudo-realism. And this is what the Nolan movies were guilty of. There's so much cool shit we couldn't do in the Nolan movies for quote-unquote realism. We couldn't have Catwoman in the Nolan movies. We had Selena Kyle, the cat burglar, but she was never Catwoman. The closest we got is she flipped up her night vision goggles and it sort of looked like cat ears. Because we can't have Catwoman because that's silly. Meanwhile, Batman repairs his broken back with ancient Chinese secret.
Ancient Chinese secret.
Like, we already don't have realism here, all right? Can we at least have fun with it? But no, you have to be pretentious about it. You have to hold on to this illusion of realism.
You merely adopted the realism. I was born in it, raised by it.
I mean, look, Alan Moore is a bit of a pretentious shithead. I really think he is. Now, again, he's written some great stuff. But getting back to Watchmen, I like Watchmen. It's a good read. It's a good movie. And the only reason Alan Moore says it's a good movie is he's butthurt over the fact that he's not getting royalties.
Oh.
And by the way, the reason he's not getting royalties is he could have taken this to Dark Horse, mind you. Dark Horse was publishing creator-owned shit at the time. And this was his own original characters, Do Not Steal, based on the Charleston guys. But he could have gotten away with putting them over there. DC couldn't have sued him. They were different enough.
The first draft, it actually was the Charleston guys.
Yeah, he could have taken this to Dark Horse, but he stayed with DC, and DC gave him this deal where DC kept the rights as long as Watchmen remained in print. Well, there's always a goddamn trade paperback of Watchmen being sold. Oops. I'm sorry that the lawyers at Time Warner got the fucking best of you there, buddy, but what did you expect?
It's kind of like George Lucas and Spielberg with the merchandise bet.
You did a gambit there and you lost. You went with DC because you knew you'd make more money in the short term. It would sell more books in the short term. You could have gone to Dark Horse. Dark Horse was around at the time. And Dark Horse doesn't own a thing. That's the interesting thing about Dark Horse Comics. Dark Horse Comics doesn't own a fucking thing. Everything they publish is creator-owned or some manner of licensed thing like Aliens and Predator comics. You could have went to Dark Horse, buddy. You didn't, and your butt hurt over the fact that you're not sleeping on piles of money. But I don't feel that bad for you because you can go to any comic book convention in the world and charge, stupid amounts of money to sign shit. So, you're not hurting for money. Anyways, the movie's good. That's anytime you hear Alan Moore bitch about the movie adaptations of his stuff, know that at least half of his bitching is because he got screwed out of royalties in his mind. But anyways, the movie's good, book's good. I don't like the influence Watchmen had because after Watchmen, everybody wanted to be Watchmen in the worst possible fucking way. It's funny too, like the Youngblood, fucking Rob Liefeld's goddamn abortion. Read Youngblood #1 sometime. Dig it out of a dollar bin because that's where you'll find it, and read it. All right, it's a fucking disaster. And what's really interesting about that is you'll see trade paperbacks of it made later by creators who suck its dick and talk about all these amazing themes in it of like Rob understood the reality TV show phenomenon before it was coming. And none of this is in the book. People just sort of project this shit onto it. I don't know where they're getting it, but anyways, Rob actually said that he was influenced by Watchmen for Youngblood. So this is what happens when a man who has the psyche of an 11-year-old tries to recreate Watchmen. That's not even the real Youngblood #1, by the way, because, again, multiple volumes, because comics are complicated like that. Look up Youngblood #1 from 1992 or 1991, something like that. There it is. There it is. You ever see that in a dollar bin? You dig that right out. You go home and read that, because that is madness.
Madness. I'll let your brain finish the rest.
Because we have Black Punisher over here in the background with stupid gun. We got Red Hawkeye front and center. We got Not the Thing. Oh, by the way, that big guy in the background was originally named Bedrock, and Hanna-Barbera threatened to sue him because he kept saying stupid shit like
Flintstones.
He kept saying things like "Yabba Dabba Doom," which is the dumbest fucking catchphrase.
What?
Yeah, that's
How
the thing.
about you
that he
yabba
said.
dabba don't?
Well, he then changed the character's name to Badrock. Because, original do not steal. But yeah. Good God. All right. But getting back to the original thing there, yes, I see that with geek culture. Part of it is just that geeks naturally, we're not self-confident enough about who we are and what we like. I'll tell you, and it happened to me like halfway through high school, and it was after I started getting laid too. That'll tend to do that for you. But I reached a point where I was like, you know what? I got a pretty good-looking girl who's regularly on my dick. I don't think I feel bad about liking comic books anymore.
That'll do it.
I don't think I feel bad about who I am anymore. You know what? I don't have the least bit of giving a fuck.
Yeah.
About it anymore. You know what's actually funny? It's a true story. Ultimate Spider-Man, when it first came out, was absolutely brilliant. The Ultimate Universe is a damn good read right up until Ultimatum, which was like an event in the Ultimate Universe where writer Jeff Loeb decided to run the whole damn universe into the dirt. But early Ultimate Spider-Man is just amazing. And this was like 2000, 2001, something like this. So this was even before the Spider-Man movie, right? So a lot of people didn't know dick about Spider-Man. It's funny. I was reading all those books, and then I even picked up the trade paperback afterwards, to keep rereading it because the first Ultimate Spider-Man story arc is that good. Well, I gave it to my buddy, my best friend in high school, who was still my best friend. And he read it, right? And like a few days go by, I'm like, dude, where's my book? You gotta give it back. You gotta be done by now. He goes, I loaned it out to somebody else. Well, this book made the way through like 4 different people, right? A couple weeks later, this fucking cheerleader chick who I didn't even know her name, to be honest, comes up to me and gives me back this book, right? And tells me that she cried when Uncle Ben died.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like, that's how well written this stuff was. People who had no interest in comic books picked it up and right away got into it. Because again, it was a big story arc. You get to know Uncle Ben in it, whereas in the original Amazing Fantasy 15, you see Uncle Ben for a panel and then he's, fucking off. They didn't waste no time with shit back then, Literally, the origin issue of Spider-Man, Stan Lee didn't think he'd ever do that character again. Like, Amazing Fantasy was being canceled, and he just was like, oh, I'm going to do this idea I had, since nobody's watching this book now. But yeah. That was kind of around the time when I'm like, yeah, comics are cool, and you're a fucking idiot if you don't see why. But yeah, part of it is just that natural, geeks kind of, not having the self-confidence. Part of it is people that are in it for the wrong reasons and they don't, they don't, the writers that are in it for the wrong reasons. Again, even with all the comic book movies that are out there right now, aside from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all of them still suffer from being kind of ashamed of the source material. I'm sorry, there doesn't need to be a Superman movie that's grim and gritty, all right? All right. I'm going to take another caller.
I just want to mention that everything that he talked about can be said about video games and other geek media as well. But in video games specifically, we had a serious takeover of these. The social justice warriors has much less to do with their ideology and much more to do with the fact that their ideology is very conductive to making little cogs that will buy whatever you put out. And so that was really encouraged by the publishers to sort of start making geek stuff that was kind of ashamed of itself in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it's funny too, and I mentioned this in the live stream this week, but with all this YouTube censorship, like that guy Todd in the watching chair from Channel Awesome, Lindsay Ellis's ex-boyfriend, he even had a tweet where he talked about like, it's because all those mean racist people on YouTube that now my ability to make a living on YouTube is getting hurt, because this censorship is going across the board. They're trying to just make everything as milquetoast and PG as possible on YouTube across the board, across political lines. Well, no, Todd, what it is you pushed for a censorship that is now biting you in the ass.
Yep.
Because you didn't realize your corporate masters didn't give a fuck about your goddamn SJW utopia dream. They just wanted good cogs that they could sell coke to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you lived by the sword and you're dying by it now.
There's elements of that in everything, but video games became so profitable so quickly that it had a very, very pronounced and trackable arc.
It's funny. I talk about Watchmen being one of those things where I like, but I don't like the influence of it. And a buddy of mine actually says the same thing about Final Fantasy VII.
I don't remember who it was, but somebody said that Michael Jordan unintentionally ruined basketball. It might have been one of the Red Letter Media reviews, but I can't remember where I heard this. But basically, the thesis was Michael Jordan ruined basketball without intending to, by being, such a great example of it, that he inspired other people to be like him. But all that the people took inspiration for, in his case, for example, was, I want to be a big, everybody knows me superstar. And it was just the fame. And none of the skill and the hard work.
Yeah, I don't even like basketball, but I respect the hell out of Michael Jordan, because that's a guy who, his love of the game shined through. Where, like, when he was a coach, he would be routinely like dribbling a basketball or shooting hoops while talking to the players. Like he had to have it in his hand, almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why he was as good as he was. Because damn near every waking moment of his life was spent subconsciously mastering the physics of that game.
He had the passion.
Yeah. But yeah, my buddy had said that about Final Fantasy VII, where he's like, it's a good game, but it's responsible for Final Fantasy turning into the, animal pile of horse shit it is now.
Yeah. 14 is good. It's a good MMO.
Yeah, David had this video about explaining how all movements basically get co-opted by the worst elements of it. It starts off getting something interesting, getting the whole crowds together. Then in the crowd, some cool kids start showing up, and then the people who start the movement try to cater only to the cool kids.
Yeah, there's an image, a Stickman comic explaining this that goes around on the chans a lot. Cool guys get together and do something. Or no, nerdy guys get together and do something. One cool guy shows up, brings his girlfriend, other doofuses show up, and then they kick the other person out because they change all the rules. I don't like that this nerd thing is like this. I wanted to be more like this bro thing. Let's have some chicken wings and beer.
Well, I was, speaking of girls getting into a hobby, I was talking, like, that was what I was noticing on the chance before. No.
I don't mean like the girls who get into the hobby on their own are fine, but there's that
No,
specific type of unintelligent girl who just does whatever her boyfriend
Well,
does.
I kind of likened it to this when I was first noticing comics really pushing to get women into the comics and how it was changing things negatively. And this goes back even the seeds of it going back really 10 years. And I said, it's kind of like this. Imagine you got a Dungeons and Dragons game and your buddy brings his girlfriend and all of a sudden you guys can't be like making dick jokes anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing where it's like, it's not, nobody was mad that she showed up until she changed the dynamic. Now, the girls that are there for the right reasons don't change the dynamic. But the ones that aren't there for the right reasons turn everything to shit. Yeah, that's the quintessential example, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Before we take the next caller, I want to do a quick comics thing. Since we were talking about both comics and video games, I want to talk about just a quick little list. Here are some comic books based on video games that are actually worth reading. Just going to quickly run through the list. Number one is the Tomb Raider comic book, and this specifically is the one that Top Cow published. There is currently one being published by Dark Horse. I haven't really read any of it. I read like issue 1. It's based on the kind of new grim and gritty Tomb Raider, which, if you ask me, is more of, you know, being ashamed of the source material. I don't I don't like the grim and gritty Tomb Raider.
I like this one.
That's what I'm talking about. The Tomb Raider that Top Cow published, it started with a cross, like they got the rights to do a little crossover with the Witchblade comic they had. And then they
for obvious reasons.
Yeah, and then they just started.
What Witchblade looks like.
Yeah, and then they just started like writing a regular Tomb Raider comic that takes place in their little Top Cow universe that has characters like the Darkness and Witchblade and Magdala, which was it was easily the best things Image ever published in the 90s. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, there's good old Witchblade. But the Tomb Raider comic is really good. The art is gorgeous. It's really good babe artwork. Without that being the whole thrust of it, there is actually really good writing in that book. In fact, if you're really interested in the book and you already want to check it out, you know, mute me for about a minute here because I'm going to spoil the first story arc. The first story arc, we get to know Laura a little bit. We get to know, you know, some side characters. One of the side characters we get to know is basically her Alfred, this butler character that is, you know, her parents died when she was young, helped raise her and all that shit.
Her name is Laura, by the way, not Laura.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Actually.
Anyways, Laura Croft. Anyways.
Laura.
Shut up, nerd.
Nay.
You know when you see something written all the time, you never quite know how to pronounce it. Yeah. Anyways, her Alfred character actually betrays the shit out of her at the end of the story arc and tries to steal this magic MacGuffin that they were chasing through this story arc because he was sick of her spoiled ass. And like actually almost always resented her and basically wanted to steal all her money in this. Like it was such an out of nowhere, like
the inverse of the Alfred character.
Inversing of exactly what you expect him to be. Yeah, good stuff. All right, so another quick one. All the comics that Nintendo Power published back in the day are some fun little reads. And right now, 2 of them are back in print: the Mario comics and the Link to the Past adaptation. Both of those are worth getting, and you can find them in any bookstore right now. The Mario comics especially I found to be very entertaining. It has just that right amount of fun, goofy humor to it. Definitely worth checking out. That is actually a fan-made comic that I had this guy on a channel like a long ass time ago. I'm sure the audio was shit, but he actually made a fan-made comic of like an issue and a half. That is also a good read, but that's not what I was thinking of. But anyways, yeah, it's like Super Mario Adventure is the trade paperback of it, and there's a Link to the Past trade paperback. speaking of Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda also has tons of mangas that have been put into American translation. Each one is based on a game. Link to the Past being the most recent one, or being one of them. Those are also worth checking out. Mega Man has some decent mangas that are in American translation. There's 3 volumes of Mega Man Mega Mix, and then Mega Man Giga Mix. I don't know why they call them that, but
Megabyte, gigabyte.
I guess, yeah.
Because he's a robot. Get it?
Yeah. But Mega Mix is first, Gigabyte is second. There's 3 volumes of each. They're all worth. I read them just recently, and they're very good reads. Speaking of Mega Man, there was a really good Mega Man comic at Archie that got canceled basically due to licensing issues, but really, really good. It has had 2 different crossovers with the Sonic comic, interestingly enough, and the Sonic comic is another one that's pretty good at Archie. If you're curious about that, I would suggest picking up the Sonic Generations trade paperback. With Mega Man, you can just start at volume 1. That's easy enough. And again, there was the Sonic crossover. Those trade paperbacks might be going up just a touch in price because of the licensing issues. The Sonic comic's actually on hiatus at Archie for some sort of licensing issue with Sega. And it's on hiatus like mid-story arc. Something weird is going on behind the scenes between those 2 companies. I don't know what it is. Also worth checking out is the Darkstalker comic book that Udon published. Really good stuff. Fighting games are not that easy to translate into kind of a more linear storytelling for obvious reasons. But this comic, it mostly focuses on 1 or 2 of the characters, but does little like side stories on the
That's a story with some pretty good monster girls in it.
Yes. And those are
no further comment.
Those are published in 2 different volumes. Definitely worth checking out on those 2. The Udon Street Fighter comic is pretty good, but I like the Darkstalker one a lot more. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. These are all pretty good reads. If you like the games these are based off of, you'll like these comics. So check them out. All right, so I'm going to bring in the next caller.
Oh, hey, you know what? Actually, right before you get in, while you're bringing him on, you know something that wasn't ashamed of its source material? Ghost in the Shell. I actually saw that movie, and despite Angelina Jolie's or whatever that is,
Scarlett
Johansson, whatever. I don't watch celebrity stuff. Scarlett Johansson, despite her best efforts, actually, it was a very enjoyable movie.
Ah.
And it was very faithful to the original. There was some of the iconic scenes, such as fighting the guy in ankle-deep water, and that one thing where her arm like breaks in half. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. That is all in there, and including the that one little quick shot of the lady that her fingers split into like 12 to type really fast. That's in there briefly too.
Oh, that's the shit posting GIF.
Yes, the shit posting GIF. Yes, that's what people know it today as.
Hello.
Hello, Black James. What's on your mind?
My new dragon avatar thing isn't that showing up that well, but yeah. Anyway, I won't be. I'm sorry that with the new setup and stuff, I won't be able to like hang around with y'all and whine about politics and issues as much as I used to. But
well, I might bring you on as a guest. It's just
I was gonna say like y'all could make me a part of the trilogy.
I gotta calm it down with callers.
There's a difference between callers and guests.
Yeah. So all right. So what's on your mind?
I just wanted to kind of come on and I was saying like I wanted to kind of present the kind of lawful neutral MAGA view of what happened in Syria, because I think that I've been all over Twitter, I've been all over the internet, and I think that people are just overreacting to this. And here's the thing, I just before and y'all say, oh, you're overreacting, or you're a dick sucker. I'm loyal. I'm not gonna lie to any of y'all. Like, okay, I'm loyal to the Trump train. Okay, this is really a political movement This is not like, oh, it's just the alt-right, and alt-right's part of it, and the alt-white's part of it and stuff, and I respect both of them, frankly. But what this is this Trumpism. This is a political movement that was founded by this guy that is changing things dramatically about who is allowed to speak in this world that's controlled by by the Soroses and stuff.
Mhm.
And there are certain people who are scared of what's happening, because let's all just be honest with ourselves before I go into my thing, and this is gonna take me a second, but before I go into my thing, let's just be honest about something, okay? Cards on the table. Donald Trump wouldn't have won shit all, let alone an election, if it wasn't for Twitter, because that was how he contacted us. That was how he talked to us. That was how he got past the media that did nothing but lie about this man. They did nothing but make up complete falsehoods about this man. They called him excuse me. I'm drinking. They called him a rapist. They called him a pedophile. They called him a murderer. They said they implied that he killed women that he raped and stuff. They made up nothing but false propaganda, and there's no other word for it, about this guy. Nothing else. We would not know who he really is. We would not know what he really believes. We would not know what his real opinions are if it wasn't for a fucking tweet. They are terrified, and not just the mainstream media, they're part of it, but the people that are behind them. I said people, quotation marks, behind them, Graham of Wormtongue. I'm sorry. I mean George Soros. No, actually I got that right the first time. But the point is that this nigga is terrified. And there are people that he works for. And the tinfoil hat, fuck that noise. There are people that son of a bitch works for. That are terrified of what's happening, because they see a political system that they spent decades or more building collapsing. They see it imploding in Europe, they see it imploding in the West, and they see a new political movement moving up out of the ashes. And it all is because one man had the fucking intelligence to go to the people and speak to them personally in such a way that they could not edit, they could not destroy, they could not distort, because it was him saying this directly, basically to your face. And that's what they're afraid of.
This is your daily white pill from a black man.
Oh, yes. No, hey, look, hey, niggas, like I said before, y'all send us to do everything difficult because y'all fucking lazy. Okay, so here's the black man coming in to give everyone their white pills, because
that's right.
But anyway, all of this is happening in Syria. Who have you been hearing all of this information from?
Media.
And who in the media? Like let's just put this into perspective. Lawrence O'Donnell is on his show saying, I think Rachel Maddow said this too, that this was a PR stunt to prove that he doesn't work for the Russians. Now, are those the motherfuckers you want to take word of?
Well, here's the thing. To some extent, it may indeed be that. I don't think that's the entirety of it. I think that's part of what he may be doing.
I think
the point is, though, normies are never going to buy that. That's a bridge too far for most normies. So if indeed
you're giving way too much fucking credit, nigga. But okay, keep going.
I mean, believing that level of, because here's the thing: normies are very resistant to the idea of conspiracy theories. That's why you can't convince them of one, even when you have real hard evidence.
Mm-hmm.
They just they don't. It's a social thing. They don't want to be seen as a conspiracy theorist. So trying to tell them that he's in collusion with Russia and he attacked a Russian ally just to trick you, you could have all the evidence in the world that was indeed true. That's a bridge too far for him. Yeah. Like if that was his plan, then he's gonna win.
I'm praying tonight that you're right. I'm gonna pray tonight that you're right, nigga. But I really do. But
what's the thrust of your topic, though, so we can go ahead and get on with that?
Well, we're kind of getting to that. That gas attack. Okay, first let me just get on that, because this take me 10 seconds. That gas attack was not by Assad.
Absolutely.
The secular, pro-Christian, winning his fucking war, people, Assad is not gonna piss off all the Christians and all the secularists and all the Westerners and Donald Trump, who was actually speaking out for him a little while ago by using chemical weapons on babies. And part of this isn't about Ivanka Trump or Jared Kushner. I'll get that's the thrust of the thing, and I'll get to that in a second. This is because, like, when he was talking about this, you could see it in his eyes, you could hear it in his voice. This man is a human being, and when he said that when he saw that picture of that man with tears in his eyes holding his 2 dead infants, that really affected Donald Trump, and that's why he staged this attack, because that pissed him the fuck off. But he's not stupid. He phoned them ahead of time. He told them to evacuate the base. They did, and so the attack was essentially just to destroy the base that had the chemical weapons, allegedly. But I think that we all just know that was an ISIS attack. So let's just keep going from there.
Yeah.
The point is this: everything that you hear about this on the news is bullshit. And the second that you actually listen to what people that are on the ground are saying, you know it's bullshit. Because now, from what I've read, the United Nations is actually saying, "Oh yeah, that was likely ISIS." The United Nations, for fuck's sake, okay? And all of this stuff, now they're trying to get Fire Kushner and Kushner at War and stuff like that to trend on Twitter. But they're also, but that goes with Keith Bannon, does it? Like, why isn't Keith Bannon trending on Twitter? Because every time I saw one, I saw the other. So why isn't they both trending? Why is only Fire Kushner trending? Why is every news outlet in the country saying that Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon hate each other when there's no indication of this prior to literally 24 hours ago? And now Ivanka Trump is supposedly behind all this. Oh, she forced her father to do all this. It's complete. Oh, yes. Now she forced her father to do all this. It's complete bullshit. It's a fabrication created by the news media to cover up what really happened. What really happened was that ISIS staged a chemical weapons attack, a false flag. They made it look like Assad. Donald Trump, through a combination of the fact that he's a human being and he felt horrible about what happened and he felt like he needed to respond, blew up an empty base. There were 0 casualties according to everyone concerned, including Syria. Russia's not really that angry, frankly. Syria is angry, but they're going on with their lives, and now they just blew up the ISIS base that was near that town anyway with the planes that were launched from that facility. So clearly they didn't hit it that hard. This is the true stuff that's actually going on according to the people that are on the ground. And all of this other stuff and all of this stuff, and they're trying to get Bill Mitchell and Paul Joseph Watson to hate each other. They're trying to get these people on Twitter and these people on Twitter to hate each other. This is because they see where the movement is and they're trying to destroy it. They're trying to use derision and destabilization to take it apart, because what is really happening here is that they have suddenly realized that they're the rebels and he's the Assad, and they're fucking losing this war. So they created this false flag horse shit so that they could have some kind of reason.
Yeah, just like I said earlier, this wasn't an attack on Syria. It was an attack on us. People,
no,
information-wise.
It was an attack on, really, it was an attack on 2 people. It was an attack on Donald Trump and Bashar al-Assad.
Well,
that was who it really was.
I don't think we're really disagreeing with you, Annie, on that.
But
I mean,
there needs to be no derision. There needs to be no anger. Oh, this is the end. No, he's done something horrible. It's imperfect, and this is buyer's remorse. No, what we need to do is wait and see what happens. It's like, look, I understand. Believe me, when shit hits the fan, you duck, but you don't duck before the shit hits the fan. Okay. We need to wait and see what happens. Because there's been a huge amount of stuff that's happened today that the news is using this to cover up, and I wanted to bring that out. There have been 2 terror attacks in Europe today. One of them was in Oslo, where they found a bomb before it went off and they stopped it from detonating. The other one was in Stockholm, Sweden, where a bunch of children were brutally run over. And there's been a shooting in Florida that I read about. I have no idea where that went.
I didn't even hear about that.
Oh, exactly. Because they were talking about all this. There's also been a train wreck in Moscow that looks suspicious because these 2 trains just happened to collide with each other on a track. And I think they said it injured 20 people. Oh, and have y'all heard about this? There's a guy that sent a 100-page manifesto talking about how he wants to overthrow the government because he's an anarcho-socialist who stole 2 assault rifles and a bulletproof vest, and he's moving towards Washington.
A narco-socialist.
It's like,
wow. It's like saying I'm a blue-red parakeet.
I'm a round square.
He's a white version of that guy T that has assault rifles, okay? And he's running towards Washington. And the media is using all of this horse shit about Kushner, about Bannon, about Priebus, about Trump, about Syria, Assad, all this. They're using all of that
To avoid talking
cover
about
up,
actual news.
to distract everyone from what's really happening. There's an assassin running towards the fucking White House that nobody can fucking find, who sent a manifesto to the president saying that he wants to destroy all of fucking capitalism. Meanwhile, there's been at least 2, possibly 3 terror attacks in Europe. There may have been one in the United States. We don't fucking know. And nobody's talking about that. Oh, also, we got Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bullseye. So apparently things are actually going pretty good for fucking Donald Trump and shitty for the EU, and they don't have to talk about it because, oh no, an empty airbase in Syria got hit with some bombs.
Well, as Undertow said,
Focus. Everybody, focus.
I'm gonna let you go here. There's a lot to bounce off of. I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
But as Undertow said, this isn't the end of Trumpism. This isn't the end. You know, like I said, I'm not burning my MAGA hat. Okay, I'm just not wearing it today. I'm a little disappointed in how things have shaken out here. This may have been the only choice Trump could have made. As I said, whether or not it was some grand 4D chess move and he meant to do this the whole time, kind of bullshit. The point is, there's any number of constructive ways he can spin what he just did. From here, he can go in any number of constructive ways. It gives him greater leeway to deal with Russia without, people screeching more Russian puppet at him. It gives him better leeway to deal with Assad because he's clearly doing it from a position of strength. He's clearly doing it, unlike Obama, who would draw every red line in the sand and do nothing when he crossed it because Obama had no testicles. This is a guy who, and it's not that Obama never drone striked or anything. It's more that, there's a certain level of symbolism to this. It shocked everybody that he did this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's any number of really good places he can go from here on this. And by the way, I'm going to bring in Anti-Dem. He has to hop in. I'm going to bring him in as a guest. But yeah, this isn't that bad. It's kind of the end of the honeymoon. And that's more just on us. We should, and even us here are not as guilty of it as some, but we are guilty of it, of expecting too much.
Yeah, and that's what I was referring to by saying that the honeymoon is over. Yeah. It's time to get real.
This isn't that bad of a thing. The biggest thing, though, and this is what you can't shake until things shake out, is this could be step 1 towards something that's very, very bad.
Yes.
That's
and
the
that
thing
needs
about
to
it.
be that needs to be said a lot.
And again, there's a lot of idiots in the Trump, even in pro-Trump circles, and it surprises me. And it's mostly the boomers who are like, let's go get the bad guy, without ever stopping to look at who the bad guy really is. It's disappointing. And we just made this mistake a decade ago. And I still don't think he's gonna make this mistake, but I cannot reiterate enough that I did not throw my support, humble though it may be, my little bit of influence behind this man so that he could be George W. Bush's 3rd term.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to do that, but I'm also sitting here like he better not.
Yo,
Andy
Mr.
Jam.
Online Nizzle. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we
what's
can
going
hear
on?
you.
Hey,
Our correspondent in communist-occupied California.
Yeah,
How
really.
goes the war?
Oh my gosh, the freak out people have been having online about this Trump thing in the last little while. I mean, more than anything. By the way, okay, so I'm the guy who, back in January, was saying, don't oversell Trump. He's going to disappoint you sometimes. He's not going to do 100% of what you want. He's not the God Emperor. He's not the savior of the white race. He's not going to complete the circle of German idealism. He's going to be probably a pretty good Republican president, but I've seen him come and go. Don't oversell this.
Well, here's
And now
the
I'm the
thing.
guy in
I gotta
April
stop you
who's-
for a second. Here's where I think it caught everybody off guard, where it got us more emotional. I fully expected Trump to fuck up in certain ways. I knew he wasn't, he wasn't gonna. I knew he wasn't gonna decorate our new wall with Hillary Clinton's skull. Much as I would absolutely approve of him doing so, I knew that wasn't gonna happen. I knew we weren't gonna get everything we want. I knew he was gonna disappoint. I knew he was going to make mistakes. The problem is, not in a million damn years did I think it would be this one. Now, again, he might not go really down this route. This might turn out to be a big nothing. God in heaven, I hope it is. But the problem is, this is the first, albeit small, step towards making George W. Bush's exact mistake. And never in a million years did I think that would be what would happen. And even pointing in that direction frightens the hell out of me.
But I mean, I've seen over the last 48 hours, people posting on 4chan, panic that they're going to get drafted to go die in World War III against Russia.
Oh, yeah, that's nonsense.
Come on.
I gotta say this real quick. That's nonsense. First of all, and this is something we really learned during the Bush years, it is the pro-war people that never, ever, 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 ever want there to be another draft. Because here's the thing about it. Here's the thing about that. When the people, the average person, actually has to sacrifice for a war in some way, when the 18-year-olds get yanked away from their fucking Xboxes to go play in the sand, that's generally when the people expect a war to have a point and an end. That's why George W. Bush very famously said, "Oh no, the military will go to war. You go to the mall." He didn't want the average person to suffer for it, because that's when people expect. No, there's not going to be a draft. All right, that's not going to fucking happen.
There's not even going to be boots on the ground or anything like that. Look, remember before this happened, a couple hours before, I was on your stream, before the news broke, and I said, you know what? At most, this will be a few airstrikes, and that's it. And like Black James was pointing out, that's what it was. They sent out warning beforehand and shot a bunch of missiles at an empty airbase.
I was saying the same thing right with you. I was concerned, but I was basically like, I don't think he's going to. But the problem is, I'm only human. I hear the news.
Put the blame on me.
Yeah, I hear the news that Trump goes to war with Syria. I see all the most evil motherfuckers in the world wringing their hands with glee. And I'm sorry, I get caught in that feedback loop where I'm like, oh my God, what has happened?
Yeah, that was me on Thursday night too.
I'm sorry, when I see Hillary Clinton and Bill Kristol dancing with joy, I have to think the mushroom cloud is on the horizon, because those people are pure fucking evil.
Well, okay, first thing, I think, and I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that a lot of Trump supporters are really young. They're in their teens or 20s. They're millennials who never really followed politics before this. Mm-hmm. And part of that, and there's a lot of this to it, part of that is they're not old enough to remember back in the 90s when it seemed like Bill Clinton would drop some bombs on some Middle Eastern or Balkan crap hole every few weeks to take people's minds off of whatever terrible, dismal scandal he'd been involved with lately. This does happen all the time. Presidents drop bombs on something or other, and nothing ever really comes of it. So don't panic about that.
Well, and there's also the fact that we live in the social media age. We're all reacting live in real time. So we're all going through initial shock, and we're all going through, initial anger and stuff, live on social media and on YouTube. I was shocked and angry, and I had the chance to go live in front of an audience of people who also felt the same way, no doubt, and express that. I mean, that's part of it, and that sort of amplifies it. You know what I mean? Whereas, 10, 20 years ago, you'd be sitting there kind of angry watching the news, and then you'd go to bed and wake up the next morning, and maybe it wasn't as bad as you thought.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what happened with me.
I mean, normies are digging this, no doubt about it. People on what could broadly be called the alt-right don't like this at all, and I don't like it at all. But normies are digging this. They think it's great, and you can say they should or they shouldn't, but they do. But I mean, the alt-right again with the reaction to this. All of you remember like your first breakup when you were like, I don't know, 15, 16, 17. Like the first time you broke up with a girl, like your first romance, right? You're like, oh, this is incredible. It's true love. Love does exist. It's going to last forever. And then after the breakup, you're like,
it must be great.
Yeah. Then after the breakup, you're like, love is a lie. Everything is awful. I'm going to lock myself in my room for 2 weeks and listen to The Cure. That is really like, this is a little bit, I think, more than anything of disillusionment after a first love for a lot of people on sort of our end of the right.
Well, I'll admit it. Like, look,
once again, as I said, this just means the honeymoon is over.
I'm well into my 30s, so I'm hardly new to the game of politics. I've been following politics since I was 15, but I will say this is the first time I got behind a major candidate who won. So this is the first time I got behind someone who was even in a position to disappoint me.
And by the way, I'm not saying to everyone, don't make your voice heard on this. I mean, it really is true. If nobody complains about a problem, then nothing ever gets done about it. And yeah, you should say, hey, this isn't what I voted for. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't what Trump ought to be doing. And that's great. I'm just saying, take it in a little stride. I mean, this for me, like, this is 1990 with Bush Sr. saying, well, okay, maybe some new taxes, right?
No. This is not like announcing a new tax code. Listen, we were all depressed and freaking out and thinking about a draft because we thought a declaration of war was forthcoming. All right.
No, this breakup isn't like all the others. This one really proves that love doesn't exist.
That is not fair at all.
No, there was a lot at stake here. I mean, look, the odds of it getting out of hand were not very good, but there was an entirely possible scenario in which things could have gotten extremely out of hand, especially given what we knew at the time. I didn't know that Trump basically fired missiles on an empty pile of nothing that he's given them warning for. All I knew was he fired missiles into Syria. And my first thought was, holy fuck. That could go very, very badly, very, very fast. And not necessarily that it will, but that it very, very well could.
Well, it certainly didn't help that he did it on the 100th anniversary of America entering World War I.
I know.
Yes, exactly.
I know. That was what
history does like to rhyme, doesn't it? I was a little worried. And look, there was a lot of there's still reason to be concerned. As I said, this is a step in a very dangerous direction. It's just a step. It's just relative, and it's a much smaller step than I was originally led to believe. But it is nonetheless a step in a very dangerous direction.
But honestly, all of you guys out there, Trump is going to do a lot of stuff that you don't like. And the question isn't that. That's not what it's about. It's, will he do a lot less stuff that you don't like than Hillary Clinton would have done?
Yeah, if I could add something to that, you were talking about how there's always, if you don't address a concern, you'll never be listened to. The thing about Trump is that there was kind of this implicit assumption that no problem would ever be solved. But even for me, as long as Trump is in the White House and as long as the new right is emerging, our problems might actually get addressed down the road.
Yeah, again, all I'm saying is, we should take this the way you take a breakup when you're 30, not the way you take a breakup when you're 15. Don't, the problem is, goes down to the bar and has a couple of beers and cries a couple tears and then goes home and you're okay.
Well, that's how I took it. Okay. I was very, very upset that night and I got over it the next morning. The problem is I had the opportunity to be very, very upset live on YouTube, you know, and live on Twitter. But yes, I'm more or less over it. But at the same time, it's something to be concerned about. And as I said, this is a step in a direction where that caught me off guard. That was the last way I expected Trump to fuck up.
And by the way, one more thing, I mean, honestly, and this is with the Syria attack, it's with all the Kremlinology that's going on around the Trump administration, people saying, Bannon's out of here, and this guy's out of there, and who's going to get fired? And look, don't give in to the constant, and there will be a constant stream of rumors and telephone game and complete bullshit coming out of the news throughout the Trump administration. Partly it's just his personality. Partly it's the emotional investment that people have in him, positive or negative. You don't know the story. Wait before you make judgments until you do know the story. And sometimes it will take a while for it to come out. And you know what? There's some aspects of this we're not going to find out about for 20 years. You know, we're not going to find out about until people who were involved in the Trump administration write their tell-all memoirs, you know, in 2040.
Yeah,
so,
and you have to remember that as the president of the United States, he's privy to a little bit more information than we are.
Yeah. So, you know, everybody take all of the rumors you hear, you know, about anything, about Syria, about foreign policy, about who's in and who's out and who's running things and what Trump believes and what his next move is going to be. Take them all with appropriate grains of salt until you know for sure what the truth is. And knowing for sure what the truth is tough. You know, again, there's stuff with previous administrations we still don't know the truth of. We still don't know all the truth of the Bay of Pigs or why LBJ decided to get us into Vietnam or what happened in the Nixon White House. There's still unanswered questions. So, you know, everybody just calm down, be skeptical, and approach this with an even keel.
That is very good advice. Very good life advice, actually.
And I stopped chasing rumors in my life years ago. It's just, well, you know what? When they pull it around out front, then I'll believe that it's coming. And again, that doesn't mean don't make your voice heard in saying, hey, we would be really upset if X, Y, or Z happened. But, you know, it ain't time to panic until it's time to panic.
If there's anything that I really hate about all these events in question, it's the media coverage of it. I mean, it's always the media coverage of it.
What's new about that, though?
Yeah, but it's just that, like Thomas Jefferson said in his day, nothing can be believed that is written in a newspaper. And as of right now, I'm always seeing like the internet, the newspapers there, and like, is there anyone I can turn to advice for information, or do I just wait for it all to blow over?
There was some cocksucker on CNN. I think it was the same guy who ate brains in India. Or maybe I'm just being racist, and it was some other brown person on CNN, and I can't tell the difference. But anyways, he was quoted as saying like Trump became president when he bombed Syria, and that is what got me the most upset.
Yeah, that's wow.
I'm just looking around and I'm seeing everyone who should probably be swinging by a fucking noose really, really happy.
Okay, here's the thing. I told myself on Inauguration Day that after all of the buildup to the election and all that, I was going to start pulling back a little bit from everything, from all of the news and all of the politics and all of that.
Mm-hmm. We certainly tried to here.
Well, you know,
failed.
my own website, I mean, I don't do like day-to-day politics on it. And, you know, I'll admit for the last few months, it's been a wild ride enough that paying attention to all of it like was irresistible. You know, you couldn't not. And they were heady days. They were really amazing. Now I think maybe it is time for a lot of us to not completely disengage, but pull back a little bit. You know, just don't be checking Drudge Report every day. You know, don't be, checking your Facebook news ticker all the time. It's, politics all the time was great for the last 6 months. Everybody pull back, spare your sanity. If something is really important, you'll hear about it. Otherwise, the day-to-day politics stuff, just let it go for a little while. I mean, I even unsubscribed to a bunch of podcasts that I was listening to up in the run up to the election and the inauguration, because it was just like, I've done enough politics for a while.
Well, that's why on here we've tried in the past month or so to make a real effort to cover more pop culture shit, cover more lighthearted stuff. You got to balance it out. You gotta have breaks. You gotta disengage from it sometimes. I would argue, the old biblical model of the Sabbath. I would say take about 1 day a week off from politics at least.
I would say take 6 days a week and make your last one politics day. It's not just politics. It's the level of engagement we've all had over the past year, because it was just incredible to watch all of this happening. Go back to sort of what you were doing 2 or 3 years ago. I'll tune in and catch half an hour of Rush when I'm in the car or something like that, but I'm not going to, all the time, political podcasts, political talk radio, all of that. Just, you can't keep up the level of intensity we've had over the last year. It's just going to drive you nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, speaking of pop culture, did you see the link I sent you about the Marvel writer, the Muslim Marvel writer sneaking anti-Christian and anti-Jewish messages into X-Men?
Yeah, that's kind of funny because of the types of people that are often. It's really funny how the Jews push all the Muslim stuff all the time, because that's not going to bite you in the ass. But here's the thing: the X-Men have always kind of had that faggot shit in them, and that's kind of why they've always been my least favorite Marvel property. I mean, don't get me wrong; there are times the X-Men handle identity politics very, very well.
About, you shall not ever be ruled by Christians or Jews or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's times that they can handle this kind of stuff very, very well, but ultimately the X-Men books have always had a higher dose of pause, a higher dose of that shit than the. I mean, look, I was never that big of an X-Men fan. I've been an Avengers fan since 1998. Before that, it was like Spider-Man that I liked way more than X-Men. I mean, I tolerated the X-Men a bit in the 90s because they almost were the premier team in Marvel, because the Avengers were just in the toilet before like around 97, 90, and all.
And let's be honest, that 90s X-Men cartoon was pretty good.
Yeah. And there are times the X-Men are able to do these sort of racial issues and identity politics in very, very well done ways. I would say like 08, 09, 2010, something like that. Around that time, the X-Men were starting to do it really, really well for a little while, where there was a certain nuance to it. It was just two different peoples trying to live at peace with one another and often failing. Human beings weren't shown as like, oh, they're irrational. No, there's very real reasons to be afraid of someone that can knock down a building with a thought.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, let me see if I've got the liberal writers behind this right. I shouldn't be allowed to own a 22 plinking rifle, but the dude who can literally tear a building in half by taking off his sunglasses and looking at it, if I say, gee, maybe we ought to register that dude, that makes me the next Hitler.
I remember a comic series Marvel did where it was like following a cop in the Marvel universe. And, after some big X-Men versus evil mutants fight or whatever, at the end of it, he's filing his reports and he goes, and on a personal note, I still don't feel any real reason to hate mutants, but I sure as hell find a lot of reasons to be afraid of them.
Yeah, well,
But yeah, I actually read that X-Men comic and I got like a little bit into it and I'm like, this is crap. Because it was this big push at Marvel all of a sudden. We're reviving the X-Men books in a big way, and I'm like, yeah, try again.
here's the thing, comics are going to continue to exist as IP houses for movies, video games, TV shows, but in 10 years, there won't be any such thing as a wad of dead trees with ink on it that you go and buy that's a comic book. It's just sooner or later, Disney and Warner Brothers are just going to get tired of pouring money down this hole. They're doing it, and I'll tell you,
it's going to get better.
I'll tell you when the end is really going to come. I mean, may you live to the age of Moses, but Stan Lee is not exactly a spring chicken these days. And when he finally goes, I think that's about when the final push is going to come about to oy vey, shut it down.
Yeah,
Well,
how are they
I would
going to
hope
put him in
you're
as
wrong.
cameos then? They'll CGI him in like Tarkin.
Yeah, there you go.
A buddy of mine was joking where he's like, you know what they should do in the Marvel Cinematic, since all those movies had a cameo of him, like on Earth, it should, and like all these different people, it should just be like, that's actually a Skrull invasion, and then like most of them just took that form. All
And
the
Bobby
Stan Lees
Ewing
we
woke up
saw-
in the shower.
Yeah, all the Stan Lees we saw were actually Skrulls. But no, I would certainly hope that doesn't happen, because I think, first of all, I think there's something to holding never mind even comics. There's something to holding a physical book that I believe is lost with a digital copy.
Yeah.
Yes, digital copies can be cheaper and more convenient. That's all well and good. But there's, as Stan Lee himself said, a comic book is like boobs. It's all well and good to see it on a screen, but wouldn't you rather hold it in your hands?
The problem is, I don't think it's going to get. Now, here's the thing. One thing that I think will happen with Trump is, in the last couple years of the Obama administration, everything in mainstream culture pulled very hard left. All the pop culture stuff, all corporations, big businesses, on the assumption that that was the wave of the future and everyone just had to jump on the bandwagon. I think that will reverse itself to at least some degree. I think that everyone will suddenly figure out, whoa, wait, maybe that isn't the wave of the future. And I think that's going to be reflected in things like, you're not going to see Super Bowl commercials with the interracial gay married couple raising 15 adopted Somali orphans. That's gonna, we're gonna put the coolers on that.
Well,
I think in a way, the SJWism in comics is a really bad sign for them, because it means Marvel doesn't care enough to stop it.
Well, see, that's just it. DC already put the brakes on it a little bit the last few years, and Marvel's beginning to now. I mean, you can argue they're maybe learning the wrong lessons, but they're beginning to say, hey, wait, things are clearly not working out here. Here's the thing. I don't know if in 10 years you'll be right. I will say this, though. That doesn't have to be the future for comics. Things can be very, very easily turned around at both Marvel and DC to the point where, no, they're not going to be the biggest money makers at Disney and Warner Brothers, respectfully, but they're going to be money makers. They're going to be in the black. Both Marvel and DC have the potential to, just on their publishing end, never mind the merchandise and all the side stuff, to just on the raw end of selling comics, they have the potential to be in the black at any given time, particularly now that everybody loves superheroes. There is no reason they can't be in the black, particularly with trade paperbacks, in bookstores all over the world. There's no reason they don't have to be. If Marvel and DC have that future you described, it'll be the future they chose. It'll not be because, oh, there was just nothing they could do. You know, they were pressing buttons.
Take a shot.
You know, it'll be the future they chose. It doesn't have to be that way, and I hope it isn't. But we'll see. Yeah, there's no reason, especially now that, I mean, high-end Marvel books, like the big names like Spider-Man and Avengers and Captain America and Iron Man, they should be selling roughly 1 million copies apiece. I would say the top 5 books at Marvel each month should be roughly selling 1 million copies apiece.
By the way, someone in the chat asked what I think of Jared Kushner's role in all of this. I posted this on Facebook. There was one single Jew in Trump's personal inner circle, a son-in-law married to an undistinguished middle child. Within 3 months of Trump taking office, this man seems to have wormed himself into a position of power, made a nest for himself in an office at the White House, gotten Trump's senior political advisor demoted and marginalized, blunted most of Trump's pushes towards social conservatism, and brought us to the brink of war with one of Israel's enemies. Just saying. So that's what I had to say about that.
But I'm sure that's all a coincidence.
And as for comics, yeah, I mean, look, it doesn't have to be that bad, but it's gonna be. I just don't see much of a future. Okay, let me put it this way. I don't see much of a future for big comics. I don't think Marvel and DC will be publishing in a few years from now. What I do see is that could leave a hole in the market that someone could fill with something else. Somebody who's...
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think you're right about DC and Marvel. Maybe they can still turn things around, but I do think we're just going to see new players.
Oh yeah, the demand is still there. That's why they can turn things around, because the demand is there. It just needs to be harnessed. As for predictions of Marvel and DC's demise, I mean, I've been around long enough where I've heard this same spiel since 2000, that within 2 or 3 years they're going to stop pushing. It's all going to be digital. All this crap. I don't buy it. I really don't.
And I know this is a different case, but when video games came out, you would think that would be the end of board games and tabletop games, right? But I just spent
everyone a few years ago, 2010, I heard, soon there wouldn't be digital, or soon there wouldn't be physical copies of games. And despite some companies' best efforts to push us in that direction, it just doesn't seem to be happening.
Well, board games are a good example. Yeah, they're still around. People still play them, but they're nothing like they were 30 years ago.
No, in fact, they're a lot better and a lot more popular.
More popular.
Have you heard of Ticket to Ride? Have you heard of House on Haunted Hill?
More popular? No, but what you're doing is ignoring a lot of normies that used to do that. A lot of casuals. I'm sure that the hardcore community is just as into it as ever, and probably may even be a little bigger than ever. But there's lots of normies who just aren't anymore.
No, this is. I'm gonna have to say you're wrong on this, because Ticket to Ride is something that I play with my family all the time.
Oh, this game is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, people
Settlers of Catan.
Yeah, people used to sit around and play like those games before television, and television took a lot out of them, and then before video games. It used to be a big mainstream normie thing, and it's not anymore. Again, I think
none of these things have to be
into it even more.
None of it has to be big. Marvel and DC don't need to be big normie things selling comic books to get by.
I actually,
I would argue there's easily there's easily enough geeks out there to be selling respectable numbers of comic books and be in the black. Never mind the normies.
Yeah, and you know what? You do make a good point. Maybe it's not going to be a mainstream thing anymore, and in that case, good. Honestly, because just as we were talking about before, when you have only the people who are genuinely into these things consuming these things, then they tend to be more enjoyable because they're geared not for the lowest common denominator, but for the average player or the average consumer or whatever. Coincidental picture of Skyrim.
Well, no,
But no. But I think you do actually bring up a good point, because I didn't think about it this way. Board games now are way more profitable than they have used to been, because you do have a much larger, not as large as, you know, the people who play Monopoly or whatever, but there are a lot of people who are into things like Pandemic and you know, as I already mentioned, Ticket to Ride and all that, and especially around college campuses, it's a really big deal nowadays. But that is more about a bunch of people who are getting a lot of different games who are into it. You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily everybody's grandma has a copy of Sorry in their house or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think that you may be right about the popularity, but not about the quality or the existence of these things going forward. Because I would think that once comics, I mean, weirdly, I don't think comics ever got that popular in recent years anyway. They're sort of falling off, I guess. But I would have to imagine that once people start saying, okay, well, this isn't getting our ideology across, or we're not able to move a bajillion copies of this, people who are actually into the medium will be more into it again. I don't know.
Well, that's the kind of thing you get when something goes from something that's sort of mass market to something that's a niche.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up building plastic models, and, you know, in the 50s and 60s, it was, you know, a dime for a blob of plastic that sort of kind of a little bit resembled the airplane it was supposed to look like.
Uh-huh.
And now if you go into a model airplane store, you know, you get these beautiful precision molded things with
that's what the models for the Warhammer and tabletop games are. Those are, you still use sprue cutters and everything to put them together.
Yeah, and you know, you go in and get a new mold like Hasegawa or something like that. You know, the new B-24 is, I think, $85 a pop. You know, but that's for adult hobbyists with disposable income. That's not like Revell did theirs in 1964, when it was, you know, some kid would walk into the Five and Dime, build it for 50 cents, and that's it. You know, that sort of may be where comics are going. But if it is going there, I mean, it is possible to pursue what you might call the Apple strategy, which is you go for profitability instead of market share.
Yeah.
The problem with that is I don't think that Warner Brothers and Disney are interested. I don't think they care. I think they'll shut it down before they figure that out.
But they can't shut down other companies, though. That would then make the other companies have more market share, because they're no longer competing with DC and Marvel. So if DC and Marvel get shut down, what they're going to do is auction off the IP to other publishers.
Oh no. That IP is too valuable for them as movies and TV shows and video games.
Fair enough.
Now, what that can do, though, is that somebody out there who wants to create, you know, super duper power guy, the new superhero, can totally do that, and there could be market space for him. But you know, how much? I don't know. And again, if we're going for profitability over market share, the problem with that is that an Apple computer costs 3 times what a PC does. And are you guys who are comics fans willing to pay $15 a book for a comic?
You're just pulling that out of thin air, but I get your point.
Yeah, no, I don't think it needs to be more than $3-4 to make a solid profit, even with you know, a niche market.
Well, the pattern seems to be, as these things go from mass market to niche, prices go up.
Sure,
you
but not
just-
that much.
But no, the prices have already gone up because Marvel is already at lower than niche sales. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Even the people in the niche don't want it. That's the thing.
yeah,
Okay.
like
What-
Marvel and DC sales, Marvel especially, it has nowhere to go but up right now. It basically
it
has
can
no.
go even further down. It can
It,
it can go right down to zero.
I mean, yeah, it can go down to zero, but I mean, until guys that were around back when it was there's a certain number of guys that are just never gonna stop buying their favorite character as long as they have a dime in their pocket to
I
put
guess
towards
I
it.
guess the point I guess the question that I have is, what's your point?
Well, my point is, I don't think that the situation with Marvel and DC is going to get better, and I think that it won't be that long before they stop publishing comics.
Well, I would argue with DC, it's already getting better. DC has already begun to move away from this nonsense.
But it won't get better enough.
They have a lot of baggage left over from New 52 and just cleaning up bad storytelling. In other words, there's a lot of work for the writers to do, but they're doing it. DC is getting better. DC is in a better position than it's been since before the reboot. Creatively, commercially, they're going up. They're on an uptick. They're moving up. And ironically enough, it's happening at the same time that their movies are not doing that well. They're sort of
I guess to
they
answer
got
the
the
question,
inverse problem of Marvel right now.
yeah, to answer the question, will it get better enough? Only time will tell.
Yeah, but I think Marvel has already said we're moving. In no uncertain terms, they said we're moving away from this SJW garbage. They haven't said that as exact words because they can't. There is this current secret empire storyline, which is it's the culmination of this everybody's a secret Nazi bullshit that Nick Spencer put up. And the Marvel executive said, look, almost apologizing, this story is too far along for us to cancel now. So basically they're going to have to let it run its course and then clean it up afterwards. But they realized this was a bad idea. I would argue, yes, the next few years are going to be very make or break for Marvel, but the demand is there. All they have to do is start doing good comic books again. That's all they have to do. All they have to do is find some talented writers, some decent artists, slap them on their fucking IPs, and then that's all they have to do. Whether they'll do it or not is a different question, but that's literally all they have to do to fix it. They have a deadly disease killing them where the cure is just a fucking little pill. Now they have to take the pill, but that's it.
Yeah, but
It's so reversible.
You remember a few years ago when Disney was selling comics on its own imprint, and just the basic Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, DuckTales stuff. I mean, how many copies of those were selling a month? And Marvel still and Disney, pre-Marvel Disney, still decided to pull the plug on them. I mean, some of those weren't they selling like 1 million copies a month?
Disney's currently selling Disney comics again. I mean, they didn't pull the plug on that stuff. I mean, currently Disney's doing a Mickey Mouse comic. They're doing They're doing a couple of different Donald Duck related stuff. They're doing a Darkwing Duck thing. They're doing a ton of that stuff right now.
There was a period a few years ago where they were, oh man, I forget the exact details of it, but
they lost a contract at Boom and were renegotiating stuff. That's what caused that. Yes, there were about 4 or 5 years ago, there was really amazing Disney comics at Boom that they were making, and that sort of petered out because that was just negotiations between them and Boom. But currently, there is a ton of Disney properties out there. You go to the comic book store, you'll see Pirates of the Caribbean, Frozen, Cars, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, Darkwing Duck. There's tons of Disney comics out there right now.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. We'll march your ass right into the comic store and show you.
I
Asshole.
currently
Jeez.
read Darkwing Duck just because, I'm at a loss for decent stuff to read, and I've always had a soft spot for Darkwing Duck.
And how much of your local comics store's money does it make on figures and T-shirts and all of that isn't comics?
The local, I'm sure most of it's merchandise, but that's just, I mean, that's anything anymore. Movies are going to make most of their money on merchandise anymore. I mean, that's been true that's been true since Star Wars. That was where the real cash cow was.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where they made a joke about it in Spaceballs. That's where the real money is, merchandising. Spaceballs the flamethrower. I don't have to do the whole bit. You know what we're talking about.
And
I mean, yeah, because,
I get you, but I think you're being a bit too much of a negative Nelly on this.
I mean, don't get me wrong. That is an entirely possible future for both Marvel and DC. I would just argue it is a very, very easily avoidable one.
Sure. It's not inevitable. I
agree. It's easily avoidable. I just don't think they're going to be smart enough to actually avoid it.
I mean, literally, it's, put like right now, the Spider-Man books are ass because Dan Slott is a fucking talentless hack, right? And I don't know how exactly they did it, but they've resurrected Spider-Man's clone, Ben Reilly, and they're doing a new Scarlet Spider series. And I am going to read that Scarlet Spider series when it comes out because it is Peter David and Mark Bagley. So once again, put talented people on a book, people are going to come. I haven't touched a Spider-Man book in 3 years. I am going to pick that one up because holy fuck, it's Mark Bagley on Spider-Man again. Holy fuck, it's Peter David, who can damn near do no wrong on a superhero book. Holy fuck, get that in my hands right now.
By the way,
write down a number on this piece of paper and I will pay it.
The more I see of it, the more I am cautiously optimistic for Spider-Man Homecoming.
I want to like it so much. I just the Burger King Kids Club casting. You got to talk like I want to like a Spider-Man movie that is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so much, but
that's what we got to do. We got to get you a Spider-Man Homecoming poster, and we'll just put "I want to believe" on it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's just gonna be, Spider-Man Homecoming hovering over a field. Like I want to believe.
I have no doubt that the chat is working on that right now.
But yeah, I mean, I have no interest in what's going on in the Spider-Man books right now. But that's just a perfect example. I have no interest in it, and yet nonetheless, because they were like, look, there were little promotional posters, these little size posters, that they were giving out at the comic book store, and it caught my eye because I can recognize Mark Bagley's art from a fucking half a football field away. I was like, oh fuck, is that Mark Bagley on a Spider-Man book? Scarlet Spider. Peter David's writing this. And I looked at the guy and I was like, put this on my list. Put this on my list. I want this in my box when it comes out.
By the way, to the chat, I heard the black girl is not MJ. Is that true?
I don't know. I just,
and
I'm really upset about this anti-redhead racism going on in Hollywood right now. So,
and also, why would he be meeting MJ in high school? I mean, are they just going to completely skip over Gwen Stacy or what?
Well, they did know each other in high school, didn't they? Weren't they like neighbors?
Not in the regular continuity. In the ultimate continuity, they did.
No.
But no. Here's the thing about Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy is entirely worth skipping over because Gwen Stacy never did anything interesting but die. In other words, every time there is a movie or anime or TV show adaptation of Spider-Man that introduces Gwen Stacy, I immediately look at it and say, unless you're planning to kill her, you're wasting everyone's time. Because that's all she did of interest. I mean, yes, in the Ultimate Universe, Gwen Stacy was far more interesting because she was a completely different fucking character that just was just a blonde named Gwen Stacy. But no, Gwen Stacy was the epitome of the blank slate fucking female love interest. Literally, she got her ass murdered by the Green Goblin, and that's the only thing of interest she ever did.
They can always make something interesting out of it. I mean, look.
Oh yeah, you can make something interesting because it's a blank slate.
I mean,
you could paint anything on a blank canvas.
look how much the DC TV shows have made something interesting out of characters that were like nothing before. Whoever heard of Felicity Smoke before Arrow started?
I believe that was made up for the show.
No, she was an extremely minor character.
Was it?
And I think she was like somewhere in the Flash or something like that. Yeah, very, very minor character that like nobody had ever heard of.
That the Arrow and Flash are both. Yeah, I realize they have their faults and they have their hokiness and all, but for being network TV, that is as good as you could possibly get.
Here's the thing.
Because you know what the other option is? Agents of fucking S.H.I.E.L.D. That's the other option on network TV.
I honestly think we're starting to see Arrow run out of steam.
You know, I kind of agree with you. I think ideally, because Flash is far from running out of steam, I would like to see Arrow kind of wind down and maybe that character get written into the Flash show more heavily.
I think Arrow kind of started to wind down after season 3. I think season 4 was largely sustained on just Neil McDonough's performance as Damien Dark. I thought he did an absolutely great job.
Yes, season 4 is probably the weakest. I think season 5 is a bit of an uptick from season 4 generally, but season 4 is very, very weak, except that for Damien Dark in it.
Yeah, and season 5, I just have not been able.
I mean, like the second episode in season 4, when Oliver basically exists, it basically announces like, yeah, magic is real. I've known for years. was just sort of so out of the fucking blue.
Yeah.
Magic is no, like this guy shows superpowers and right away Oliver's the guy like he must be a meta like the guys that fight Flash and Oliver's just like no he's magic. What do you mean he's magic? Yeah, magic is real. I've known for years. What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, though again, Flash is still really going well, and frankly, the less said about Legends of Tomorrow, the better.
I will have to admit, though, I watched an episode of Legends of Tomorrow a week ago, where I guess all the bad guys,
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
No, all the bad guys had gotten the Spear of Destiny and rewrote reality, and that was actually a really good episode because it had the guy playing Malcolm Merlyn, the guy playing Damien Dark, and the guy playing Reverse Flash, just all hamming it up something fierce, and it was just delightful. Those actors were just having such a blast with their roles that it was impossible not to like that episode. I haven't watched a full episode of that show since like the pilot, and I still was like, this is damn good.
Season 1 was okay. The problem with season 2 is the chick they've got playing Sarah Lance is so annoying, and they made her like the team leader, and it's like, no,
she's like
go
front
away.
and center in that show.
Yeah, just go the hell away.
Yeah, I never even cared for her that much in Arrow, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's just no.
All right, well, I'm going to bring in...
It could be Supergirl.
Oh, God.
Okay, here's my plan for Supergirl, all right? What you do is you take Martian Manhunter and you give him his own show, and then you cancel Supergirl. There you go.
I remember watching. Yeah. I remember watching the first crossover episode with Flash, and I was so taken aback by the fact that the two villains in the show, their motivations amounted to nothing, and I mean nothing more than petty office girl bullshit.
Of course, that's the whole thing.
All it was. And I'm sitting there thinking, like,
imagine a Martian Manhunter show that's like a police procedural or a mystery of the week show.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I love me some Martian Manhunter. I even like the guy who plays him. So go ahead, do that. But Supergirl, just no.
I remember thinking, though, like, for better or worse, I guess this truly is a superhero show aimed at women.
Yeah. You know, you hear about a testosterone-soaked action movie. This is an estrogen-soaked superhero series, and it is so bad.
And I like the actress playing her. I like Supergirl as a character. I want it to like that show, but I'm like, this is just bad.
Oh, I love Supergirl and JLU. The one where it's her in The Question. That's like my favorite episode. But just yeah. I wanted to like it, but I just knew it was going to be a
You're
total
going off on a
show.
tangent.
By the way, speaking of the question, I wanted to ask real quick: are they still doing that replacing characters with minorities things? Because we need to have the Jewish question. It's an idea whose time has come.
That's actually hilarious. Can you imagine if they just replaced him with a character like? Can you imagine if DC like trying to kiss up to like to SJWs replaced the question with a Jewish person, and then everyone accused them of racism for having the Jewish question?
Just have a villain who's modeled on Richard Spencer. Oh, by the way, you guys did hear about Richard Spencer's anti-war protest?
I heard a little bit about
No,
it.
what is it? No, I don't want to know.
He showed up in Washington to have an anti-war protest. Antifa showed up to like threaten the anti-war protest, which now makes Antifa
Pro-war.
pro-Trump, pro-war protesters. And
I don't understand the world anymore.
and yeah, they surrounded Richard Spencer, and he pulled a Sir Robin again. So.
All right, so
Which is
he
not
bravely
good for his
ran
image.
away.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to bring John Steele in real quick for a question, but first I want to geek out one last time. The episode of JLU where Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and Supergirl go into the future and hang out with the Legion of Superheroes, and like she stays with the Legion of Superheroes at the end. A little bit of trivia: that was actually supposed to spin off into a Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes show, right? Well, that never happened. But a few years later, like 1 or 2 years later, a Superman and the Legion of Superheroes TV show premiered, which wasn't actually that bad, but was completely different continuity from the Justice League, the Bruce Timm verse, as it were. That is just a straight up case of producer and corporate executive meddling, because they were reasonably far into the early, like, I guess, concept stages of Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes, when just some random fucking suit walked in and go, "Nah, I can't have a chick as the main lead. Change it." And then boom, that was the end of it. So we would have kept the Bruce Timm verse going on a little bit longer, but somebody just came in and just took a piss on it. And the Superman and the Legion of Superheroes cartoon is not bad. It's certainly as good as a Legion of Superheroes cartoon was ever gonna fucking be. It's not bad. It's kind of really forgotten. It went a solid 2 years at least. But it's sort of like nobody even in geek circles, no Superman fans even never mention it.
By the way, is it true that they're bringing Young Justice back?
I believe it's coming back on Netflix, the last I heard.
I'm down for that. I love me some Young Justice.
It's definitely superior to Teen Titans in every way, shape, and form.
All right. Well, I will drop out and let you guys take John Steele.
All right, we're gonna take John Steele in, and then that'll be it. You know what? Before I bring John Steele in, I almost completely fucking forgot. We have sponsors this week.
Yes.
Oh shit! What up?
Yeah.
Here come that sponsor.
Our sponsor this week is Race Ride Apparel. So do check him out. A lot of great shitlord shirts there, and I know he has massively improved his site over when he originally launched it. He's constantly improving it. Really, he's constantly improving what he has in stock. Really good shirts there. Do check it out. Get you a shirt you can piss off a liberal with. And then maybe be like Richard Spencer and bravely run away. I don't want to shit on Spencer that much, but like, come on, dude, just get a bodyguard. I mean, I don't know.
What if he enjoys it?
Well, it is a form. It is a form of
Kinky.
attention. So, I don't know. Maybe like the bodyguard company only has big black guys, and that's why he doesn't want to. I don't know. I don't know. But no, do check out Race Ride Apparel. Really good shitlord shirts there. And if you click the link in the description down below. I believe that should take you to an actual discount. You should get a discount if you check out using that link. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell. I want to say 20, but it might just be 10. But check it out. Check it out. There is some manner of discount is involved in this link, and I'm so unprofessional I don't even know what the discount is. So forgive me there. And also down below, you will see there is the tip jar, where if you enjoy this program, tips of any size are greatly appreciated. Even if it's just $1, that's greatly appreciated. And as I said before, and not just for me, mind you, I'm not saying this just for me, but with all the demonetization and stuff, now is the time to support the people whose content you enjoy. Once I have another regular job again, and I've got far more regular income coming in, that's not an unemployment check, I actually intend to actually budget a little bit a month and divide it up against some of my favorite content creators, and maybe support some Patreons. Just, $1 here, $1 there, but it adds up for people. Like I said, now more than ever is a time when you want to support people whose content you enjoy. So if you enjoy my content, tips of any size, great or small, are greatly appreciated. All right.
And to put it into perspective, $1 a month is a lot cheaper and a lot more honest than a cable subscription.
That's true. Cantwell made this point and all, but he said, when you're donating directly to people, you are the customer. But when you're just a viewer, then the advertiser is the customer and you're the product. I don't totally agree with that, but there's a great deal of truth to that. I've often said that when you're dealing with advertisers, and this is something a lot of content creators don't get, you sort of have two sets of diametrically opposed customers, like when it comes to their interests, that you have to balance. I mean, a good example of doing that poorly, and I do enjoy her videos, but Obscurus Lupa used to really do that poorly back when she was on Channel Awesome. She would have some of the highest number of like ad breaks in her videos, and she never even had like any kind of intros to it. You know what I mean? Like the ad would just
fade to black.
Yeah, the ad would just be cutting her off mid-sentence constantly. And when people would complain, she would actually get bitchy and be like, well, just watch all the ads first or something. Like, no, sweetie, it's your job to make these as unobtrusive as possible. And God bless Linkara. He was really good with that back in the day. And I haven't watched him in ages, but he was good with that back in the day. He had, actual, we'll be right back stuff where he'd be in his gay little Power Ranger outfit or whatever the fuck he was doing. But he was good with that back in the day. You got to give credit where credit's due. And Lupa was downright bitchy for a while about it. You're not entitled to free. She was one of those where, and it's like, I don't know. She seems to have calmed down in that direction. Maybe, maybe Phalis gave her the pimp hand or something. You got to keep that pimp hand strong. Hey, John Steele, what's on your mind? You got a question for us?
Yeah, gentlemen, a couple things. First off, I don't know how I feel about you guys saying we're going to take John Steele. That kind of made that intro made me a little nervous.
We'll be gentle.
You don't need to be nervous about us taking you. You do need to be nervous about where we're taking you.
Yeah, okay.
We have such sights to show you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes me scared too. Second, shout out to Davis in chat. Day is fault, Davis. Day is fault. And by the way, watch The Young Pope. One more thing. I want to send Bechtloff some money. Is there a way on PayPal I can do it in shekels?
Actually, believe it or not, people have sent me shekels.
Yeah, I know, but is there a way do you have to be in Israel to do that?
Exactly how you do it. How but people have sent
I think
me,
there's a button that says manage currencies, which will do that for you.
Okay,
people
well
have
then
sent me both shekels and rubles.
Okay, well you're going to be getting shekels from me then, because I do believe in.
I've gotten whatever the hell the Danish currency is, which I think is from somebody that was actually from.
I think they pay each other in Lego bricks. Yeah,
it was Lego bricks, and I'm building it was all yellow ones, so I'm going to build a Pac-Man.
The other question, a throwback to what Auntie Dem was saying, that Trump is not the God Emperor. That's true because for two reasons. One, Undertow can't be president until he's 35, so we got to wait a while for that. Second, apparently Luke doesn't want the job, so. And
well, I'll take it. I'm mostly a supervisor, so I'll take it when everyone else dies.
Yeah, well, I think
Bechtloff
Luke could be like Undertow's, like Steve Bannon. You know what I mean?
That would be Bechtloff.
I have to be an advisor. I can't be trusted with that.
Yeah, you would be my like Grand Vizier whispering in my ear, saying stuff like, physically
remove the Amish.
Yeah, make being Amish illegal.
Yeah, that would be your Undertow if you ran for president. No, you'd have Bechtloff as your campaign manager, and that's what you'd be running on. Would be,
my main platform, an answer to the AQ.
Yeah, the AQ. Oh, by the way, that was the other thing you reminded me of. Another thing I wanted to say was, I think that Marvel should just come up with the character whose name is the JQ, and that would just let everybody read into that what they will, without
they could go with their diversity thing and make the Justice queer.
Well, you can read into it a bunch of things. I mean, like the fact that the character would be hook nosed and like to rub his hands together.
They actually have a Israeli superhero named like Sabra, or I don't know how to pronounce it, but the fact that they've never had her fight the Durka Miss Marvel is a wasted opportunity, in my opinion.
Palestine is ours.
Another thing that was very pleasant about this episode, I missed a lot of the beginning of it, so I hope I'm not saying stuff that's already been said, but I am glad to actually hear Undertow laugh and be a little bit more lighthearted, because to be honest, after hearing your impromptu episode, I was fucking worried about the guy.
Well, that was the minute that I heard what had happened.
Right.
Yeah,
brother, I understand why you were upset. I was just, I know your history.
That's the thing. You're seeing real-time reactions. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the good and bad thing about having live streams,
Right. No, there was nothing wrong with the show. I was just like saying, wow, you're
that escalated quickly, right?
Yeah, I was like, oh fuck. Yeah. But anyway, no, it's glad that there's a little levity in this episode. I think it's much needed with everything that's going on, and a lot of these things are outside of our control. So getting upset about them is of course understandable, natural, and human. But at the same time, we have to have proper boundary function and understand there's things you can control and things you can't, and act accordingly, and just focus on what you can control, and live life that way.
And as I said in that one live stream, there's certain things you can control, and ultimately, change doesn't come from the top down. So, focus on making yourself better. Focus on some self-improvement, because people get the government they deserve ultimately. So we should be focusing on also being a better people, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Although
there was one thing I wanted
to for everyone celebrating those missile strikes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They need the most.
Sorry to Blackpill.
Yeah. But there was one thing I was going to bring up, and I lost the article. There was actually an article on RT saying something about how is it possible that the U.S. was able to assemble all the assets necessary to carry out these strikes so quickly. And that kind of did confuse me, because
how could they be surprised by that?
Yeah,
That's
I thought. Don't we always have fucking battle cruisers everywhere, even if we probably shouldn't? I mean,
actually we don't. They're moved in groups, and I don't, because the thing about cruise missiles is they're launched either from submarines or from usually like destroyers and things like that.
I believe I read that these were Tomahawks, and I think those are usually from destroyers.
Yeah, well, Tomahawk, they can also be launched from subs, but yeah, they usually are launched from.
Well, that's the thing. I don't really know. I don't know how. What our.
It takes a while to travel by sea. I mean, so these things just kind of seem to be off. Also, there's the idea of before any of these strikes are always done out, they have to upgrade their target packages, so they fly over it or whatever, and then they work out, which missile we're going to send where and stuff like that. The things about cruise missiles are the reason it's so expensive, and the reason Raytheon stock just, went through the roof is because each missile costs like, $1.5 million or something.
Oh yeah,
like that.
They're crazy.
So they're precision weapons. So the idea is like not just to shoot them blindly. Everything has to be coordinated with a precise GPS.
They're not fire and forget.
Correct.
These aren't
like,
big
steer
old bottle
them.
rockets that you just fire it off.
So so it's a little bit more. Yeah, it's like not like what the Palestinians do with the
It's
Israelis.
actually rocket science.
Yeah, it's actually rocket science. But anyway, I couldn't find the damn article. I was trying to find it, but I went to RT.com, but there's 50,000 articles about this now, obviously, so I couldn't find the one that was mentioning that point. And I tried to go into the comments section, and fortunately, RT is one of the few sites that actually has their comment sections open, which that's good and bad. The good is that you can actually comment on articles. The bad is that you can never find a damn comment because there's so many of them. But that was kind of like my whole 2 cents on what's happened. I don't necessarily believe in the whole 4D chess thing.
Yeah.
But and I'm not too happy that someone from the merchant class has nested themselves in the White House, like to paraphrase Bechtloff. So I am upset about that. But time will tell. And like I said earlier, we just got to focus on what we can control and accept what we can.
It's funny because I was complaining about boomers just being too into pointless wars, and even people who should know better, who I love and respect, just of that generation, just get sucked into it.
Shout out to Mr. Bechtloff.
They want to believe the hype. They want that to be, again, maybe they just watch too much war porn on the fucking cable channels or whatever. But somebody just tweeted this at me, and it's a screen cap of an old tweet by James Austin Johnson. I don't know who that is, but the tweet reads, "This is great. Fox News has done to our grandparents what our grandparents thought violent video games would do to us."
That's so good. I wish I came up with that.
That is amazingly brilliant. Yeah. I would kind of replace Fox News with maybe the military channel or whatever the hell it's called this week, American Heroes channel or something. That's sort of absolute war porn, the big fucking business that was around. What the hell was that American Sniper dude? The big business that was around him for a little while.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. It's really there's this just knee-jerk reaction to, we're going to go out and get the bad guys before you've ever stopped to think of who the bad guys even are. What it is that they're trying to accomplish. It's weird. It's my generation that grew up on it, but it's almost like baby boomers think the G.I. Joe cartoon is real. Well, who produced it for you? Okay, there you go. I guess you're right. Yeah. But, they think we're going to go out and get Cobra Commander, and they're just constantly looking for Cobra Commander. Huh? Yeah. I mean,
and also in news, in breaking news, the Trump just sent I don't know if you guys talked about this, a carrier group to North Korea.
Oh yes, I was just watching this news article about something. Experts say watch to see if Kim Jong-un goes into hiding after Syria strike. And look how he's I don't know if this is a recent picture, but Kim Jong-un is looking very
he's looking very Kim Jong-un. Is how he's looking.
Yeah, I was gonna say what's different.
He looks like I should be playing. He looks like I should be playing Magic the Gathering with him. I don't.
Yeah, seriously. Like, honestly, you probably could, because he is a huge dork and nerd raised in luxury, and he has I believe every Hollywood movie ever produced is in his library.
That was his dad.
Oh, well, it's his library now.
Well, yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Glorious Leader never actually dies, so yeah, never mind.
Well, that explains his James Bond outfits,
Yeah.
In all fairness to monarchists, I would like to point out that there is a dark side to that, because North Korea is kind of the closest thing there is to a monarchy right now.
Yeah.
So don't act like there's not ways that can't go wrong.
Right.
Well, the whole idea with monarchy is that you have some way. You have to have standards. Listen. It's very complicated. Just read some C.S. Lewis. You'll get it.
Okay, all
It's
right.
kind of, it becomes instinctive at a certain point. Sorry.
But
Did
yeah,
did I just reveal my
I will
power
say
level
this,
too
while
much?
I am absolutely not at all interested in going to war with North Korea, there's certainly more justification there than Syria.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like
There's
50
sarin gas in the
there
air
are
conditioners.
50 countries probably I could name we would have more justification for invading than Syria.
Yeah, that's an actual dictatorship and an actual human
From
rights
a purely
violation happening.
humanitarian standpoint, we would have far more justification for going into Venezuela right now. And
Yeah.
regime
Yeah, well, I
changing
mean,
them, all right.
In North Korea and Venezuela, like, Donald Trump was, it's all about, these poor children are dying, these horrible deaths. I said, well, there's 70 children that die every second in North Korea from starvation.
And
Yeah.
where did the aircraft carriers go? That's good.
Well, that's another thing that made me wondering, like, the timing of this, because it seems like, North Korea has been a threat since, well, there's been a North Korea. And we don't have significant military assets right there. We have to steam a carrier group towards it. But yet with Syria, we were ready to, drop 60 fucking tomahawks, like that. So that kind of was curious to me, but I don't want to get too conspiracy.
The threat coming from North Korea would be ICBMs, or something like that. Like
no, it wouldn't be the threat. The real threat to the threat of North Korea is not ICBMs. The threat of North Korea is they can lob a bunch of rockets into Seoul and make it disappear in half an hour.
I guess,
That's the real. They don't have the capability for ICBMs. They don't.
Wasn't there a big stink about that kind of stuff becoming a remote possibility recently though?
It's overhyped. The idea of them developing nuclear. Well, I think they have enriched nuclear material to the point where they theoretically can make a bomb. The point is they don't have the technology.
Their rocket science is so poor. I mean,
they don't have a delivery system for it. It's not that simple. You can't just mount it on there.
Well, sure, yeah, I'm aware of that, but
they're gonna FedEx it to us.
Yeah, that's the only way. That's the only way that.
Yeah, well, but they might have had. They might have had some old, black market or leftover missiles from the.
Well, everything they have is probably leftover Soviet garbage.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't Soviet garbage. Still kind of worked. They did.
Well, actually,
they did get into space first.
The one thing about the Soviet military, what did them in was the basic economic realities. They very famously had several nuclear subs that they kept on the dock all the time because they couldn't provide basic amenities for the crew. Basically, nuclear subs couldn't go out because there was no toilet paper
or food.
Yeah, or food or whatever.
Which is very ironic if you're a film student and you've seen Battleship Potemkin.
I mean, that's kind of so telling about the problems with their system. It's like, oh, we got this amazing military war machine that's got to sit at the dock because no one can wipe their ass when they're on it.
Yeah, well, that was the one thing that the Soviet economy did do well was produce weapons. Unfortunately, they couldn't produce anything else. They couldn't even make enough food to feed their own people, despite having so much farmable land. And they still during the Soviet era. I mean, they were importing what like a third of their wheat from us.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'm always reminded of whenever we talk about North Korea is the book World War Z, where they talk about what happened in North Korea, and North Korea basically vanished during this.
Didn't it just go dark?
Well, what happened was they had huge catacombs of underground bunkers built, right?
Yeah, I remember this now.
And essentially, the entire population of North Korea was evacuated into those bunkers, right? And no one knows what happened to them in there. And basically, like, no one will open them because they said either they're fine or they're not. You know what I mean? Like, they're either, because I mean, if they want to come out and they're not, obviously zombies, that they can come out whenever they want, So either they're just fine down there, or opening it would just release a fucking hundreds of millions of zombies.
Although, luckily, those zombies would be very, very weak and skinny.
But yeah, that's how the one guy put it. He goes, it's actually by international law, you'll be like, there's guards guarding the entrances and no one's allowed near it. Like, you can't open it and all. Like, they'll shoot you if you're trying to let it open those doors and all to those bunkers. Because as he put it, he goes, either they're fine or they're not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming out very weak and skinny, that's pretty much how they went in, right? I mean,
that's the joke.
Yeah, but yeah, either way, leave them alone.
Right. That's well, I don't know, but I want, the whole thing of the it does make me wonder how much of the strike on Syria was theater for North Korea.
I do wonder if a lot of it was theater, and like I said, I hope a lot of it was theater. Because the other option is not pleasant.
Right, and I don't think it doesn't seem like Trump is planning to follow this up with anything. I believe the damage to Syria militarily was minimal, and at the same time, no one can claim Trump is Putin's stooge anymore. That argument's just not going to fly.
Yes, this potentially could lead to very good things. It just, like I said, it was a step in a very dangerous direction. And a lot of us were just, knee-jerk worried, like, oh my God, did we vote for Bush's third term here?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Well, me included. Yeah. Well, especially because then there was all the talks, and we don't know how much of this is bullshit. Like Anthony Dunn was saying, a lot of this stuff we're not going to know till people write their memoirs, years later.
But as I said, when I see Bill Kristol rubbing his merchant hands together, I got to worry if things are going all right.
Yeah. Actually, he did tweet out something, and I got nervous then.
He was all happy about it. He was like, "This is so great." I'm like, "Oh dear God in heaven."
On the plus side, now all the neocons have had their bloodlust sated, so maybe they'll leave them alone.
Maybe. I mean, that's the thing. That's what I was saying to myself as I was thinking about, well, maybe this is theater. I'm like, all right, well, he's either playing the neocons here or they're playing him. And I know which one I'd rather believe.
Right. And that could be true. I mean, we don't know. But like I said, I don't know how deep we want to get into believing into 4D chess or, who knows? Like, we don't know.
Davis Arini did a video one time where he talked about the trope in fiction where the bad guy had this elaborate plan that everything you did, he knew you were going to do it, that kind of thing. This Machiavelli play. He goes, that's never true. That nobody's really that smart. But what does occasionally happen is you end up with someone who's so good at improvising. There's nothing you could do that he wouldn't immediately be able to counter. And sometimes I don't get that Trump. I never got the impression that Trump knew exactly what everybody was going to do. I just always got the impression he was very good at countering everything that came his way. He was very good at kind of a political jujitsu where he could turn momentum. He could turn his enemy's momentum against him.
Well, it's interesting you say that because that was the impression I've had about Putin for 15 years. I mean, even on a geopolitical stage, just like if you've seen about how his rise to power and how all that worked, the way he was able to, and it's funny you said jiu-jitsu because actually Putin has a double black belt, one in judo and one, which judo is all about that. The theory behind judo is the strongest tree is the one that
you get one black belt for mastering the martial art. You get the other one for killing a bear.
Right.
It's made from the bear.
Yeah, this is specific to the Russian part.
Yeah,
the Russian branch of the martial art.
But only the the Russian black belt is a step higher. They actually, you actually have to go to Siberia. And
bears are like squirrels over there too. By the way, they're all over the place.
Yeah, down to the climbing trees and eating acorns. It's really weird.
I don't know where the hell Luke gets these figures. Great.
God, it's beautiful. I want that framed and on my wall.
But But yeah, so that's my thing. So I'm not. I'm really glad I listened to the show. It put me in a much better mood. But with everything else going on. But so that's great. That was pretty much all I had to say that I can remember anyway. So I'm glad you guys are all doing well. Great show. I like the way you mix it up. I like the new format, not letting assholes like me on from the beginning. So it was great, and I'm gonna check out, and I wish you all
right.
peace, best, and once again, Davis Rainey, Deus Fault. All right, brothers.
All
Talk
right.
to you again soon.
All right, I think I'm going to wrap this up because some of us got church in the morning, you heathens. And by the way, go to church tomorrow. Now more than ever.
Like a real church too, not a churchianity church.
Yeah, don't go to some pods in an egg hole. Like
don't go into some Unitarian branch and then sneeze and say, okay, yeah, that counts, and then leave.
There's some church down in Virginia and I've seen a couple of these signs in my neighborhood. You might have seen them around, depending on where you live. But there's these signs people put in their yard where it says in English, no matter who you are or where you come from, we're glad you're our neighbor. And then it says it below in Spanish. And then it says it below in Durka language. In Sand People language. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really glad you're my neighbor. And then let me say it to the guy who wants to rob me. And then let me say it to the guy who wants to cut my throat.
Well, what I would do is I would have that sign and it would say that in English, but then in the other languages it would say "fuck off."
Yeah, in the Spanish it would say you have to go back.
In Spanish,
the Durka language it would just say Christ is Lord, Deus Vult.
Yeah, in Spanish it would say the above is a clever ruse or something like that. And then you could write something in cursive so the black people couldn't read it. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Have a good night, everybody. That's all we got.
Well, yeah, actually, that is about all we got. Anybody got any closing thoughts? Apparently not.
Nope.
All right.
I feel better now.
Everybody, thanks for listening. Like I said before, things aren't that bad. I know a lot of people in the alt-right are in a mass panic, and there's certainly reason to be concerned. But not, like I said, I'm not burning my MAGA hat. I just maybe wasn't wearing it today.
I'm always wearing it every day, as you can see.
Yeah, do check out the sponsor below, Race Ride Apparel, because checking out the sponsor helps keep this program on the YouTubes. And also, you'll see the tip jar below where tips of any amount are greatly appreciated. And once again, thank both of you for your great job hosting the show in my absence last week. That turned out really good. So that's all we got for this week, folks. Thanks for listening. Bechtloff out.